Greetings, this is yours truly, Lord Karo, welcome to my domain. Reborn is Izuku Part 3 Me too. I whispered, and looked at my mom. I thanked whoever sent me here, for giving me this family. You want to what? All Might screamed as he was still bedridden. I was able to walk around and see him. I went to tell Class A and a couple of others about One for All. I repeated my statement. Midoriya, I know that it's not my place to say who and who you can't tell about One for All. Your mom. Sure, I understand, but all your friends. All Might tried to get up but laid back down as his body ached in pain. All Might, I need you to trust me. I know I haven't been transparent, but things are changing. I told you that the cycle of One for All needs to end with me. I'm not gonna tell the whole world, just people I trust. I walked over and sat on his bed. I don't want it to be just us in this. We need allies in this fight. A war can't be fought with just 6 people. I looked at my mentor. All Might stared at me for a good while. Okay, I'll trust you, but you still have to explain what happened out there. I gave him a smile. After Nezu sets up the dorms, I'll gather the people who need to know, but for now, rest. You earned it. I got up and left before All Might could ask me about the dorms. I could feel things changing. I was running out of things to predict. I needed to stop Shigaraki before he became too powerful, and there were still other threats to worry about. I just hope I won't do it alone. It took a week to get things ready. I stood inside the lobby of the new dorm for Class 1A. Mom and Arie moved into the teacher's dorm since the apartment was swarmed with reporters. And there was a dorm for the reformed villains. Nagant was staying there. Mr. Aizawa and my classmates were outside. This was gonna be hard. Yo, kid. I looked at Nagant. She basically became my bodyguard after I left the hospital. You gonna do this or should I just open the door for you? I took a deep breath, shaking my head. No, I walked to the doors and opened them, gaining the attention of everyone outside. Midoriya. I looked at Aizawa. Is everyone here? I asked. No, All Might is bringing them, Aizawa responded. Deku. I looked at Ochako and couldn't help but feel guilty at her expression. I am here, with young Melissa. I saw All Might walking over with Melissa. Good, let's go inside everyone. I have a lot of explaining to do. I turned and went inside, everyone followed. I stood at the corner of the room, where everyone could see me. I felt a lump on my throat as I took a deep breath. You all may know that I'm All Might's successor. I started. All Might closed his eyes, but what you don't know is that there's more to the story, and I'm here to tell you everything because I want to trust my friends and teacher. I looked at Aizawa, who narrowed his eyes. I lied. My quirk is not called Stockpile as I lead you to believe. My quirk's name is One for All, I revealed. Iida raised his hand. Classic Iida. Yes? Is this quirk related to All for One? He asked. I bit my lip at this. Yes, the 2 quirks are related. I nodded. It is a stockpiling quirk, but it's a quirk that has been passed from generation to generation. I explained. The brother of the villain All for One had a quirk that could be transferred by DNA. He was thought to be quirkless, so All for One, I don't know if it was out of pity or a way to make him submit, gave his brother a stockpiling quirk. It has merged with brother's quirk and became One for All, a quirk to beat All for One. I took a breath and continued. The brother passed on the quirk to the 2nd user, then to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and then the 7th, who was All Might's master, passed it on to All Might and finally to me. I finished. The whole room was silent. My friends were processing the information slowly. Aizawa looked at All Might, who refused to look at him, and Melissa. I couldn't see her expression as her glasses were fogged. Nagant was staring at me with wide eyes as she just learned this huge secret. Soon the silence was broken. So that makes you the 9th user of One for All? Momo asked, getting curious. 10th actually, but I can't tell them that, not yet. Yes, I nodded. Well, there goes my dad Might theory. I resisted the urge to facepalm at Todoroki's comment. Was it on the day of the sludge villain? Bakugo asked with a glare. Yeah, when All Might saved us that day, he was impressed by my actions and named me his successor and deemed me worthy to inherit One for All. When did he pass it on to you? Aizawa asked, still staring at All Might. I looked at my mentor, who gulped. The day of the entrance exam, I was able to gain little control over it, but not a lot. Beforehand I went through 10 months of hellish training to mold my body to the proper vessel to contain the quirk. I explained. Uraraka's eyes widened. You used it at 100% to save me, she realized. I smiled at her. Yes, I couldn't just stand by and do nothing when someone is in danger, can I? Uraraka blushed and smiled back at me. But wait, why did it have to be passed on so much? Toru asked. Ribbit, I don't think the quirk was strong enough yet to go against All for One. Sue croaked as she looked at me. Am I right? Yes, you're correct. I nodded at Sue. So that's why you can't use all your strength. Because you have a quirk that has stockpiled too much power. Ojiro deduced. Once again, correct, I said. Wow, a quirk that's strong, made to take down one villain. Kaminari rubbed his head to process the information. Wait, is that why you were taken by villains? Sue asked as she was connecting the dots. One of the reasons. All for One wanted One for All for himself. The room went silent once more for a while. What about the other quirks, the ones you manifested? Aizawa asked me. I chuckled. Always the sharp one. They were the quirks of the previous users, excluding the first user and All Might. I have 6 quirks in total. I told them. But you only showed 3 other quirks. Mina commented slowly as she counted on her fingers. There's those black whips, the danger sense, and then that speed quirk. Todoroki counted. Not really speed. I spoke up, more like kinetic buildup. I corrected him. So you have 3 more quirks? Kirishima asked in shock, standing up. I looked at Kirishima and smiled. It was enough of an answer for him. Melissa finally spoke up. Why did they awaken inside you? She asked. Her expression was blank. I just hoped she wasn't mad at the thought of not being chosen since her dream was to be a hero also. The quirk completely merged with me. As of now, I am the final user of One for All. It's grown too powerful to be passed on once more, I told everyone. What are the 3 quirks? Momo asked. I just noticed she had a notepad in hand. As far as I know, the 7th user's quirk flowed. I hummed. And the 6th user's quirk, which is called smokescreen. Momo hummed, great for utility. She wrote down the information. Melissa cupped her chin and looked me over before moving closer to Momo, looking over the girl's shoulder. That's 2 quirks. Tokiyami noticed. Yeah, the 2nd user and I don't really get along. I rubbed the back of my head. Get along. Wait, are you saying what I think you're saying? Kaminari shot up from his seat. If you were thinking of the previous user's souls living inside the quirk, then you would be right. I gave a humorless laugh. Dude, are you even sane? Mina asked me. Nope, I lost at the moment the previous users started to ship me with girls from my class. I could see the looks of disbelief on their faces. And I wasn't lying, they were that bored. Who shipped us with you? Kimi asked. That's your question? Sato asked the blonde. I mean, come on, I'm curious. Aizawa sighed. And you have no idea what the 2nd user's quirk is? He asked me in All Might. No, it was too long ago. We don't have much information during that time period. All Might explained sadly. Aizawa sighed. I licked my dry lips. I'm trusting you with all this because you became my family, Class 1A. I smiled at my friends. Whoa, just got an idea. Kaminari shouted with a grin. Class 1A, One for All, does anyone not see it? Jiro jammed her earphone jack into Kaminari's ear and blasted his ear. Way to ruin the moment, she exclaimed. I couldn't help but laugh at how relaxed everyone was. I think it's nice, Class 1 for All. I joked with a grin. Iida got up. Midoriya, thank you for trusting us with this secret, and I think I speak for every one of our classmates. We will be there with you when you need us. He gave me a smile. Fuck Sake, count me in. I'm not letting some villain kidnap you again because of your quirk. I'm gonna need my rival if I want to get stronger. Bakugo crossed his arms. Hell yeah. I'm with Baku bro. I'm with you through tough and thin. Kirishima got up, hardened his arms and pounded his fists together. Sit down, shitty hair. Bakugo pulled the redhead back. I'm not sitting out of this. Uraraka stood up. You saved my life, inspired me to be a better hero. I'm not gonna just let you do this on your own. We won't either. A visible Toru and Mina pumped their fists. With you it's always something greeny. Jiro smirked. Dude, with what you did for me, I'm sticking by you. Kaminari grinned as he walked over and wrapped an arm around me, pulling me for a noogie. Aizawa watched as the students gathered around Problem Child and gave him their support. I already know this is gonna give me a bigger headache, Aizawa sighed. Well, at least the worst is behind us. Nagant shrugged. Don't, you jinxed it, Aizawa groaned. The meeting was over and everyone went up to get started on decorating their rooms. Lady Nagant and All Might went to Nezu's office while Aizawa went to the teacher's dorm to take a nap, leaving me and Melissa alone. I looked at Melissa, who was looking at the notepad Momo made earlier. I walked closer to her. Melissa, look at him. I think I know what you're thinking, Ed. Don't, Melissa sighed. I wanted to be a hero like Uncle Might, then I found out about support designing. Then we met Tony, now this, I just need some time to think. I frowned. I understand. I looked down. Don't worry. I looked back up to see Melissa smiling at me. Uncle Might made the right choice, everyone knows that now. She left right after. That's one explanation taken care of. I went upstairs and knocked on Bakugo's door. When it opened I stopped Bakugo before he could speak. Nezu's office, it's time to explain everything else. I said softly enough for him to hear. Bakugo's eyes widened as he nodded and he left the dorms. I was standing by the window of the Nezu's office, looking out at the dorms as the sun was still high in the sky. Casting my gaze to the room, I looked at who was present. All Might, Nezu, Bakugo, Tsukachi, Lady Nagant and Gran Torino. Are you finally gonna talk? Bakugo asked with a growl. I guess I've been silent for long enough. Yes, I brought you here for a number of reasons. I have enough trust in you to keep this secret. I took a deep breath. Bakugo knows this, he was the first one I told. Bakugo's eyes narrowed as he knew what I was talking about. But he doesn't know everything I'm about to tell you. I looked over the people in the room. My name is Izuku Midoriya, but it's also Ethan Venenzo. Tsukachi's eyes widened as he detected no lies. I was a 20-year-old guy who just finished college and had no goal in life, no purpose, just going with the flow, until I died in a bank robbery and found myself in the body of Izuku Midoriya with all of my memories on the day of the entrance exam. He's telling the truth. Tsukachi revealed. Nagant stared at me. Wow, I didn't think this is what you were hiding. All Might stared at me in shock. So, Venenzo, Midoriya. I abandoned the name Venenzo a long time ago. I interrupted my mentor. I see, why didn't you say anything before? All Might asked. I scoffed. What? Tell everyone I'm a 20-year-old inhabiting a 15-year-old's body. Yeah, that'll be something. I rubbed the back of my head. You told me. Bakugo interjected. Because you saw that I was not acting like Izuku, I responded. You noticed too. I looked at All Might. I was scared that you might reject me because I wasn't the Izuku you knew, but I talked to him. I gave a small smile. He wasn't angry that I was inhabiting his body, he was happy to see me saving people like Toga, Arie and you. I gazed at Nagant, who blinked. But there's more. I closed my eyes. In my world, this whole reality is summed up in an anime called My Hero Academia. I loved the anime, I even read the manga. I gave a small laugh. I didn't think I would be a part of it, but here I am. So I made it my mission to make things better, use my knowledge of the future to change outcomes and save people from death or from the dark, I explained. The room was quiet. I could tell that this was hard to take in. Look, I have a theory on why people in my reality can see your world. You all are real. I assured them, the events of your world leave footprints in mine, retellings on what happens in your world in the form of stories. I believe it's like this with other worlds, I explained. Wait, is that how you knew about where we were when we were in that other world? Bakugo demanded. I gave a nervous laugh. Yeah, that was the MC Universe or Marvel Cinematic Universe. I explained. I was surprised we ended up there. Wait, you went to another world? Nagant asked. I'll tell you later, I told her. You said you wanted to save people, who did you want to save? Nezu asked after processing what I told him. I looked down. Togo was a villain. She joined the league after Hosu, but I was able to get her to change sides. Arie was with the Yakuza longer, but I met her and took her away and the Yakuza were arrested early. I paced as I laid my actions out in the open. Then there's twice who I saved. Naomasa looked at me shocked. You did all that? He asked. Yeah, as for deaths, there's Sir Night Eye who died during a villain raid. All Might choked and looked at me in shock. But that won't happen, I won't allow it. I assured him, then turned to Nezu. Heroes from the top 10, I muttered. Midnight's death wasn't gonna happen on my watch. We have threats that we don't even know about, but now that All for One is in prison, we can focus on them. I sat on the chair in front of Nezu's desk, staying silent so they could process all of this. Midoriya. Nezu spoke up. What do you know about these threats? I looked around. Everyone in the room was paying close attention. For one, the League is not that much a threat until later on. We still have to keep an eye out for any activity. I have some knowledge of their next move, but I changed too much for it to be completely accurate, I explained. From what you told us, you made a lot of changes. Gran Torino sighed. But anything you can provide us helps, Sukachi added. The League would have teamed up with the Yakuza, but now that's not a factor. I told them, with the Yakuza out of the picture, the League's activity will be unpredictable, Nezu hummed. So what's supposed to happen after? Bakugo asked, crossing his arms. After the Yakuza thing is the whole cultural festival. Nothing much happens there, but there are some people I want to recruit. Nezu, when you have time, can you try and track down Gentle Criminal? I asked the principal. Whatever for. He and his assistant need second chances and can be helpful. His assistant, La Brava, is very good with computers, so I think you can get it done. I told him. Oh, how fun, the Chimera grinned, giving me shivers. Sukachi, Gran Torino, keep up your investigation with the League. Kurogiri will try to find one of All for One's followers. I told the two. A follower? All Might asked. Really devoted, more like a pet really. I mumbled. What can you give us? The detective took out a notepad. His name is Gigantomachia, and you can't miss him, he's huge. I spread my arms out. He can grow larger, very strong and very devoted to All for One. He was able to break through waves of heroes with ease. I tried to remember the quirks he had, but I was coming up blank. That's a problem. Gran Torino mumbled. You have to work on a sedative strong enough to knock out a giant. I added. We'll look into it. Nezu nodded at me. Okay, next on the list is the Meta Liberation Army. I revealed. That old group? Gran Torino barked. I thought they disbanded. Nagant frowned. No, they're staying in the shadows until they can reveal themselves. The problem there is that we can't do anything until we have more information. I rubbed my forehead with a sigh. Don't you know everything, nerd? Bakugo asked sarcastically. No, I don't. I can say that Detronaut is a front for the army and their leader, Redestro, is the CEO. I revealed. I need a drink, the detective grumbled. They have people all over Japan, it won't be easy to take them down. If what you say is true, then I agree. We can't act recklessly. We need to gather up all the supporters to end the Liberation Army. Nezu agreed with me. We need someone on the inside to get that kind of information. All Might piped in. I believe I have someone in mind, but we can discuss that later. Is there anything else? Nezu asked me. The doctor All for One worked with, the one who can create Nomus. He can control Gigantomachia. I know who he is and his location, but we can't act without evidence, am I right? I asked the detective, who frowned and nodded. Right, well, I'll write down all the information once we're done, but we have one more thing to talk about. I looked at Nagant. The Hero Public Safety Commission. Everyone but Nagant and Nezu looked at me in confusion. Kid, what are you talking about? Torino asked. Lady Nagant wasn't Mia, but she was in Tartarus because she killed the previous president of the HPSC, I revealed. Sukachi looked at Nagant and was about to grab his gun. Detective, if you will listen to me and my story. Well, how about I show you, may I? I looked at Nagant. Wait, you can do that? She asked. I just learned it a week ago. I walked up to the detective and placed my hands on his head and closed my eyes. I pushed the memories of Nagant into his mind. Seconds later, I pulled away and Sukachi fell in his seat. Wow, he took off his hat and rubbed his forehead. You see, the commission is focused on one thing, keeping society clean, by any means possible, I said. The commission takes kids with amazing quirks and trains them to become heroes in the spotlight while in the shadows, assassins. I look at Nagant. Then that means Hawks is. All Might's eyes widened. Yes, he's a puppet of the commission. He was trained at a young age to become their tool after Nagant, who too was trained at a young age. Nagant lowered her gaze. Bakugo clenched his fists. Fucking bastards. So the system we work under is dirty. What do we do about it? All Might looked at me and then Nezu. Nezu and I looked at each other. Nothing, we answered. We can't do anything right now, as of right now. Society is still reeling from losing its symbol of peace, I answered. Once all of the other threats have been dealt with, we will do what we can to weed out the corruption. Nezu took a long sip of his tea before putting it down. Is that all? He asked me. Right now, Principal, that should be all. If anything else comes up, I'll let you know, but right now, I need to head back to the dorm to mingle with my friends. Come on, Bakugo. I walked out and Bakugo walked behind me with a headache. I wish I never fucking asked, the blonde grumbled. But you wouldn't let it go. I snarked. Shut up, nerd. Tsukachi took a deep breath. I thought One for All was the biggest secret I ever had to hide. Now I'm gonna go home and think this over. The detective left. I'm getting too old for this shit. Gran Torino walked out. Don't call me. He closed the door. All Might just left without a word. Nagant sighed and got up. I'm gonna lay in my bed and just process. She was about to walk out. Ms. Nagant, I have a proposition for you. Nezu smiled. Nagant looked at Nezu. What kind of proposition? How good are you at teaching? I looked around my new room. I didn't bring my All Might merchandise. I didn't want to see the men staring at me as I slept. I looked at my bed at the duffel bag full of spray cans that I bought earlier. I grinned and took the bag and left the room and rode the elevator to the lobby. The doors opened and I saw most of my classmates mingling. Hey Midori, we're gonna have a room contest, Mina exclaimed. Denied. I have a better idea. I showed them the bag. A little bonding and the start of a tradition. Gather everyone and meet me at the back of the dorm building, Kirishima. Drag Bakugo out of bed. I ordered and went outside. I put the bag down and looked at the wall with a glint in my eyes. If Miles Morales and Delson Road taught me anything, it was to take the opportunity to leave your mark. My classmates came over. Deku, why did you bring us here? Ochako asked as she looked at the wall I was staring at. Well, a little bonding and tradition I want to start. I took out a green and blue spray can. Leave our mark here. First of many Class 1A in the Hyde Alliance dorms. I smirked. Bakugo's eye twitched. You brought me here for this, he growled. Midoriya, what you're suggesting is vandalism. Iida shouted as he chopped his arms. Oh come on Iida. Live a little. Mina smiled widely as she watched me starting to spray paint the wall. I thought a lot about what my symbol would be, VD in green and a blue lightning bolt running across it. The Viridian hero. Dekiru, it looked cool. And lastly, I took out a marker and wrote my name and signature under it. Done? Now who's next? I asked as I showed the bag had stencils and more cans. Me next. Kaminari took the yellow spray can and Mina rushed up to be next. I smiled as my classmates spray painted their logos onto the wall. I looked at Iida. Mr. Aizawa won't mind. I commented. How do you know? Iida looked at me shocked. I simply pointed at the corner and there was Aizawa watching. I asked him beforehand. I winked. In the end everyone was able to get their symbols on the wall, with a little help from others who could draw. Even Momo and Iida got in on it. Iida took more convincing. Ochako's symbol was a pink U with a ring around it like a planet. Denki's was a yellow CB with two thunderbolts on both sides. Jiro's was a set of blue earphones. Shoji's was just an eye. Koda's was a paw. Kami's was AM with a mist around it. Iida's was actually the Ingenium helmet. It took a while to spray but it was worth it. Mina's was a pink Q with blobs of white like acid on it. Toru's was the outline of an ing together. Momo's was just the word Creata. Kirishima's was a brick like RR. Aoyama was a shooting star. Su's was the face of a frog. Shoto's was what looked like a glacier covered in flames. Bakugo just made a grenade and went back inside after signing it. Tokiyami's was Dark Shadow's head. Sato's was a cupcake. No surprise there. Siro's was a tape dispenser and finally Ojiro's was just his tail. We looked at the small section we covered. I looked at the empty space and imagined it being filled by the next class after us. This was a good idea. Momo smiled softly. Yeah, we left our mark alright. I still don't approve, but I must agree it looks pretty nice. Iida had a small smile. Hey, like the logo. Siro grinned at Shoto, thanks, but it was the best I could come up with. The fire and ice user shrugged and we went inside. Aizawa walked up to the wall and looked at the logos of his students. A ghost of a smile formed on his face. You would have gone crazy about this Shirikumo. The teacher saw the marker on the floor. He picked it up and wrote on the wall. Above the logos was Class 1A Year 2 XXX2XX. Aizawa smiled and left. Chapter Endnotes Explanations. I'm so tired. I did my best to get this out and I have news. Hero of Olympus will be put on hold. Before any pitchforks or mean comments come out, please understand that I have a hard time writing it out. Once I figure out the issue, I may upload more than one chapter. Anyway, onto the story itself. If it seems rushed, I'm sorry. I went through 3 rewrites before I came to this one. So hope you like it. Things are changing. See you later. Chapter 28 Chapter Summary First official day at the dorms and Ultimate Moves training. Chapter notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. The morning is here. The morning is here. I slapped the top of the All Might alarm clock on my bedside table. I turned to my side wanting a bit more rest. The bed felt so different from the one at home but it was comfortable at the same time. Sadly, the day had other plans. Even with my curtains drawn, sunlight beamed through the small crack and hit my face. I groaned. Alright. First day in the dorms. I sat up from my bed and stretched with a yawn. Yesterday was exhausting. I got up from my bed and gathered what I needed. I left the room with toiletries in hand and went to the washrooms. I arrived to see my classmates brushing their teeth also. Morning. I greeted, earning some good mornings in response. I stood in front of a sink and started to brush my teeth. If I remember correctly, we were going to start training to use our ultimate moves. After the morning ritual, I walked to the kitchen for breakfast and found Shoto eating soba. I stared at the boy as he looked at me with a blank stare and slurped his soba slowly. Is that even warm? I asked, to which the boy shook his head. Is it even healthy? I asked once more as the boy shrugged. Okay. I stepped out and walked to the dining area as almost all my other classmates were having breakfast. Guys, Todoroki is having cold soba for breakfast, I mentioned. Momo sighed as she rubbed her forehead. I tried to get him to eat something else, but he just looked at me and slurped his soba. The rich girl told me. I attempted to tell him also, but he just stared at me and ate his food without breaking eye contact. It was unnerving. Iida commented. But I read that soba is healthy, so I do not think we should be concerned about it. I sighed, still eating alone. Guess we should give him time. I mumbled as I sat down. Are there any eggs left? I asked as Dark Shadow came over with a plate. Thanks. I took it and grabbed some eggs and bacon. My mind went to what I was told before I moved into the dorms. Along with the student and faculty dorms, there was a dorm building for the reformed villains. Neo, Emerald, Nagant, Toga and Twice were living there. Emerald was a bit of an issue. I tried my best to tutor her in Japanese, but the girl was so stubborn. Well, at least Neo learned enough in new sign language, and she behaves. I just hoped Nagant would keep them in line. I just realized that they made up a version of the Suicide Squad from DC Comics. Nagant was Deadshot, Toga was Harley Quinn. Or was that Neo? Both are colorful girls who are head over heels over a green-haired person. I shivered at that. Dude, you okay? Kirishima asked. I blinked and looked at Kirishima. Oh yeah, I'm okay. Sorry, just thinking. I waved off Kirishima and continued to eat. The dorm doors opened and Arie ran inside wearing her pajamas and jumped straight into my lap. Big brother. Arie held me tightly. She was clingy after the Camino fiasco. I smiled and pet her head. Hi Arie, I whispered. Mom walked in wearing a shirt and skirt with an embarrassed smile. Good morning everyone, I'm so sorry for her, she didn't want to wait and just came here. I smiled at Mom. It's okay. I assured her. How is she losing weight? Yeah. Mina grinned and reached from across the table to rub Arie's head. I'm always happy to see my other horn buddy, Mina said, bubbly. Did you have breakfast? I asked Arie. The response was a low growling noise from her stomach, making the unicorn blush. We can't have that now, can we? I looked at Sato, one stack of chocolate chip pancakes, on the double. I ordered as the sugar boy stood up and saluted. For the unicorn. He ran into the kitchen as I rolled my eyes. Kaminari Siro, Kami and Mina grinned. For the unicorn, they cheered. I groaned. Guys, don't start a cult around Arie. I begged. Too late. Arie was lifted off my lap by Toru, who was invisible. All hail Arie. Toru giggled as she became visible again. Some of my classmates got up from their seats and bowed to worship their unicorn princess, and Arie didn't know what was going on and looked at me confused. Inko giggled at the funny scene as I took Arie back. Give it a rest. I sat down with Arie on my lap and Sato came in with a plate of the requested pancakes. Arie's eyes widened and was beaming. Tokiyami closed his eyes and left, muttering, too bright. This child in my lap was amazing. I helped her eat her pancakes. She had some crumbs on her cheeks after her third bite. Momo wiped the crumbs off Arie's cheeks. We really were like a family. Today would be the start of training for the provisional exams. I knew we could do this, things were gonna be better. I know it. Hatsume walked through the dorms of the class 1H, her tech sister, an amazing name by the way. She was very happy that she got to live on campus. Now she could make more babies, but something bothered her. Melissa was out of it yesterday. It got May worried. She normally didn't worry about anything other than her babies, but Melissa was her first real friend who understood her and kept her afloat, and they were working together to create new things. Hey, Mel, you in there? May knocked on the door to Melissa's room. No answer. Coming in, she entered the room and blinked as she saw Melissa hunched over her desk, working on something. Mel? Melissa looked up, her glasses falling down her nose. She pushed them back up. Oh hey, May, what time is it? She asked. Breakfast time. I noticed you weren't downstairs, so I came to check on you. Did you need something for the Athena project? Melissa asked, raising an eyebrow. No, that's going on great, should be finished soon. Hatsume rubbed her head. Just saw you down and got worried. Melissa's eyes widened. Oh May. Thank you, look, just have a lot of stuff on my mind. I need to finish this. Melissa showed May what she was working on. May's eyes almost popped out of her eyes as she saw a functioning Mark I arc reactor. You finished it? She ran up to the desk and looked at it. Aw yeah, a working prototype, but this isn't what I'm working on. May blinked and looked at her friend. Then, what were you working on? May asked. Melissa pointed at the thing connected to the arc reactor. Seeing the device, May took it into her hand and examined it. Is this? Yes, before I work on the next phase, I need to do something important. Melissa sighed. Let me help. May looked at Melissa. Two heads are better than one, plus, we're tech sisters, we help each other out. Melissa smiled. Thank you May, I'm really glad we're friends. Don't sweat it, you keep me from doing anything stupid, May grinned. Now let's go eat and get to class before Power Loader gets on our butts. Melissa giggled. Isn't it me who always drags you out of the lab? Not this time. May dragged Melissa out the room. Melissa looked back at her room, her project was almost done. I need to finish then, Izuku. I was correct about the ultimate moves training for the provisional exams, but after the exams, I'll be in new waters. At least I could prepare my classmates for what's to come. I was in the locker room with the rest of the guys, putting on my hero costume, and as I zipped up my costume, Kaminari called out. Dude, what's that on your shoulder? I looked up and then looked at the shoulder. On it was the Avengers logo in red, kinda like Roger's. Bakugo and Todoroki have it too. Sato noticed as Bakugo's was black and on the left part of the orange X on his costume while Todoroki's was on his shoulder also. The logo of the team we worked with. I responded, I saw it on Captain America's shoulders and wanted it on mine also. The others wanted the same and Melissa was happy to add it. Dude, it looks sick. Kaminari grinned. Thanks. We left the locker rooms and the girls joined us as we made our way to Gym Gamma. I saw Momo and Uraraka have the same A on their shoulders. Uraraka's was black on pink, Momo's was black on red. As we walked, Kaminari spoke up. Yo Midoriya, your lightning was green right? It's more of a teal color. Momo answered for me. Right, well I noticed that it's blue now. Jiro blinked at her boyfriend's words. Yeah, I noticed that too, during Kamino, your lightning was blue instead of teal. My friends were staring at me, except for Bakugo, who I can assume, put the pieces together. I looked at my gloved hand and activated one for all, the blue lightning dancing around my finger. It was my one for all, my quirk. Since I let go of Izuku, I felt more powerful than before. Let's just say my quirk evolved after my encounter. I left it at that and we continued to make our way. We entered the gym and saw Aizawa with Midnight, Cementos and Ectoplasm waiting for us. I tuned out most of what the teachers were saying and thinking of my own ultimate moves. I had two at the moment, the 200% Detroit Smash and Lunar Impact. Should I come up with something new? Allow me a question, what is the advantage of having ultimate moves in the provisional exams? May we know your reasoning? I closed my eyes. Iida. I called out, making the turbo hero in training look at me. Inside voice. I told him with a flat look. You don't need to scream it out. Midoriya is right, no need to scream and that was two questions. Aizawa looked at Iida. The job of a hero is to save people from all sorts of dangers, crimes, accidents, natural or man-made disasters. Of course the exams analyze how well you respond to these events. You won't just be fighting, your ability to gather information and make quick decisions will be judged. As well as how you communicate, cooperate and lead others. Every year a new test is used to test these qualities. Aizawa finished and Midnight stepped up. One thing is for certain, if you want to be a pro hero, you must be able to prevail in battle. If you're prepared, you don't have to worry, those of you with an ultimate move will have better results. Cementos spoke up. The circumstances should not dictate the results of your future battles. Learn to be consistent and you'll be a great asset on the front lines. Cementos smiled. I wonder how he deals with having a blockhead. Your ultimate move can be an attack or a boost to your abilities. Ectoplasm said, take Iida's Recipro Burst and Midoriya's Overdrive. Those ultimate moves push the user's powers to the limit to get the job done. I saw Iida swell in pride, teacher's pet I suppose. And Midoriya's Lunar Impact. Midnight winked, binding the opponent and finishing them off with a powerful attack to take them out of the battle quickly. That's what we want to see. When did? Oh right, I was training with the move after Stain. I had Midnight watch over me as I worked on the move. The training camp was interrupted, but the practice you did get in to develop your quirks was part of the process needed to create defining abilities. Aizawa explained. You'll be working hard to develop powerful moves of your own for the next 10 days or so. This is how you will be spending the remainder of your summer vacation. I grinned as I watched Cementos create towers of cement. Be prepared for intensive training. In addition, you should work on improving your costumes, especially now that you have a better understanding of your quirks. I expect you to go plus ultra. Aizawa gave us a hard look. Get to work. Yes sir. The class responded as everyone went with their own ectoplasm clone. I walked up to a clone. Alright Midoriya, you already have your Lunar Impact, do you want to work on that or work on something new? The clone asked. I have two ultimate moves, one is Lunar Impact and the other is something I used against Muscular back at camp. Show me. Ectoplasm ordered. I looked at the clone. Alright, I took a deep breath and activated FC at 15%. I jumped in the spot to build up a bit of kinetic energy and then lunged at the clone and started to attack as the clone dodged my attacks. I wasn't trying to hit him, I was building up more energy to use the move. Should I use the same name? No, this was an ultimate move, I needed to give it a new name. I waited till there was a pillar behind the clone before I unleashed my attack. Washington Smash, I wrapped Black Whip around my arm and tapped into FA Jin giving you 150% more power, plus the 50%. Throwing the left hook and then BOOM, I blinked as the pillar, as well as what was behind it was destroyed by the immense force. Everyone stopped and stared at me and what was left of the tower. I think you should reserve that move for larger villains and dial down the power. Ectoplasm deadpanned as I looked a bit embarrassed. I agree. I looked at the source of the voice to see All Might walking towards me, his arm still wrapped in bandages. That move has a lot of power behind it, it's no wonder that Muscular was in intensive care after. All Might smirked. Ah yeah. I chuckled nervously. Don't worry, you're not in trouble, just need to dial it down. I nodded. I understand, but I think I have an idea for a new ultimate move. I smiled at him. Well I can't wait to see how you use your abilities to create it, it's also good to see you're not imitating me as much. All Might grinned. I'll make you proud. I turned to Ectoplasm and grinned. I'm ready to go again. I said as I activated full cowling. The day was full of training and brainstorming. I felt glad for the slow pace and I was surprised when I saw Uraraka flying through the air. I guess her quirk evolved once again. I was walking through the lounge with my notebook talking to Tokiyami. I'm just saying, with your new shadow abilities you can use them for more than just fighting. I explained as we walked through to the kitchen. What do you suggest? The avian boy asked me. You interned with hawks, can you maybe create wings out of your shadows? I asked with a grin on my face. Tokiyami blinked and hummed. Possibly, but the question is, will I be able to fly with them? Oh, you just need to create enough force to lift you into the air. Even during the day the shadow can be strong enough. I said as I wrote down in my notebook. I will attempt it tomorrow, thank you for your suggestion. Tokiyami nodded at me and took out a bottle of water from the fridge. The one thing we needed in this class were flyers. Uraraka could fly now, Bakugo can somewhat fly, and I could swing from Black Whip. I left the kitchen and hummed as I went to the ultimate moves page on my notebook. Washington Smash was too powerful, so I had to come up with something new. Good thing I thought of ultimate moves from the get-go. But the best thing I can do is help my classmates with their own ultimate moves. Let's see. Hey, Todoroki. I walked over to the fire and ice user. How's your training doing? I asked. Midoriya, Todoroki blinked as I ran up to him. It's going okay, but I do need to ask you something. He turned and showed me his hand. He then summoned some ice vapor. Wow, wait, couldn't you only summon ice in solid form? I asked Todoroki. I used to, but since the training camp, I was able to produce ice in vapor form, he explained. I hummed. Is it hard to control? I asked him as Todoroki put his hand down. No, not really, it's just like me using my fire, just better. He explained it in the best way he could. Well, it looks like your control of the ice vapor is better than using flames because you always practiced with your ice. Your control over your ice is in mastery. I wrote it down in my notebook. You could probably use it for mobility, to create a quick platform of thin ice for you to skate on it and then it'll melt immediately, or if you want to keep training with your flames, you could use the flames from your feet or hands as propulsion to fly around. If you're thinking of combat, you could use the vapor to slow down villains and then take them down, I mumbled. Todoroki blinked as I was going through a mumbling storm. I stopped as soon as I realized what I was doing. Oh, I'm sorry, I try my best not to do it anymore. Do you want the notes? I asked, showing him the pages in my notebook. Sure, Todoroki responded as I copied my notes onto a few blank pages and ripped it off, handing it to him. Todoroki looked them over and left after saying thanks. I smiled a bit and went back to my page where I had ideas for ultimate moves listed out. I haven't mumbled in a long time, I really needed to be careful. The next day, I decided to visit my friends in the VRD, or the Villain Rehabilitation Dorm. I knocked on the door and waited. It looked exactly the same as the other dorms except for the lettering on the front, VRD. The door opened and Neo poked her head through. Once she laid her eyes on me, she pounced, wrapping her arms and legs around me like a koala. I blinked and looked down at Neo and rubbed her head. There, ow. I pushed her off as she bit me. The hell? I demanded, rubbing my chest. Neo crossed her arms, glaring. She was wearing yoga pants and a pink t-shirt and her hair was in a bun. The look in her eyes showed how much she was upset. I sighed. Look, I'm sorry but I had a lot of stuff to do. At least we're neighbors now. I offered her a weak grin. Neo kept her glared till she smirked and walked in and kept the door open for me to follow. Walking inside and closing the door, I heard Nagant arguing with Toga. I walked in to see a bizarre sight. Give me back my shirts. Nagant yelled as she was wearing beige pajama pants and a purple bra. Toga was wearing a gray shirt with the words, "Live long and prosper," with a picture of a cat raising its paw. The shirt was a bit big for her, but it's so comfy, come on Nagant. Toga pouted as she pulled the shirt down a bit. It doesn't even fit, Nagant growled. 2 days and you already stole half of the new clothes I bought. But you have amazing taste, Toga whined. I can't help it. It looks good, not good, Twice said as he was on the couch wearing his mask, a sleeveless shirt and pants. Neo silently giggled. I stared at the two, trying my best not to stare, but failed as I looked at Nagant, fucking hormones. Then Toga saw me and gasped. Izu, she ran over and hugged me tightly. I'm so happy you're okay. Nagant froze when she realized that I was here. I rubbed Toga's back and smiled. Yeah, and I'm glad to see you doing okay. I said as Toga pulled away. Yeah, it's been so fun with my new roomies. Nah. Nagant literally pulled the shirt over Toga's head and put it on herself while blushing with embarrassment, not meeting my gaze. Stop stealing my clothes, Nagant warned as she walked to the kitchen. Boo killjoy. Toga pouted, crossing her arms as she was now only in bra and panties, both crimson. My face turned scarlet as I looked away. Toga, put some clothes on, I demanded. Foo. What, don't want to show, Toga purred as she came closer, making me step back. Neo smirked as she pulled her collar down. No, go now. I walked past her to follow Nagant. I heard the two high-five, those minxes. I walked in to see Nagant was pouring herself some coffee. You enjoying your new roommates? I asked as I walked closer. Nagant looked at me with a mild glare. I can see why they're here, especially Toga and Twice. But I don't trust Neo or that Emerald girl. Nagant sipped her coffee. Is it because Neo's mute and Emerald doesn't speak a shred of Japanese? I asked dully. That and they rub me the wrong way, especially Emerald. I've seen people like her before, only caring about one thing in their life. Huh, how do you know that? I tilted my head. Nagant looked at me, because of how she acts, and was asking Neo about when they would return to Cinder. I nodded slowly and walked over. I mentioned for her to lean closer. Raising an eyebrow, Nagant leans in. Neo and Emerald are from another dimension altogether. They're trapped here. Neo was a thief with her partner who died. Emerald was basically I chose my words carefully, devoted follower to Cinder who took her out of the streets and gave her a purpose. I leaned back and Nagant stared at me like I was crazy, but with what she learned days ago, she believed me. Damn, so those two are really out of place here. Thanks for the heads up. The heroine sighed, "Be careful with Neo and Emerald. They have power of illusions. Emerald is a pickpocket, so keep an eye on her." Nagant nodded and sipped her coffee once more. "That Neo girl has it out for you." I closed my eyes. "It's just teasing." I rubbed my forehead. Nagant nodded. I gave her a smirk. "Nice shirt by the way, Nagant." I looked at it and held back a laugh. "Haha, very funny." Nagant rolled her eyes and put her mug down. "And it's Kana Tsutsumi." Blinking, I stared at Nagant, who was giving me a smile. "You trust me that much? You trusted me with your name, why can't I do the same? But tell anyone else and you'll get a bullet to the leg." Her expression turned dark at the threat. "Message received. Where's Emerald?" I asked. "In her room, refused to come out and talk to anyone other than Neo." "Mind if I give it a shot?" I needed to check to see how she's doing. "Second floor, left side, third door." Kana told me. "Thanks, and keep an eye on twice." I walked out of the kitchen and went up the stairs, left side, third door. I stood in front of the door and knocked on it. "Emerald, it's me." I waited for a minute before the door opened just a bit. I entered the room and was surprised to see a bookshelf filled with books. I didn't take Emerald for a reader. I suppose she had to get her illusions down to the letter. You need an accurate description. Emerald was sitting on her bed wearing a red shirt and black shorts. She crossed her arms. "What do you want?" she asked me. "I wanted to see how you were doing," I said in complete honesty. "Well, I'm fine, but what I want to know is when I'm going back home." Emerald glared. "Emerald, there's no way to send you back," I told her. "Well, I need to go back. Cinder needs me." I snorted at that. "What?" Emerald stood up, growling. "She was using you." I said. "You don't know anything about me." Emerald snapped. I hummed and nodded. "You're right, but let's look back on what got you here." I walked to the bookshelf. "You were a street rat, then Cinder found you, right?" I asked. Emerald was surprised. "How? She took you under her wing and you felt in debt to her, like you owe her your entire world." "I owe her everything," Emerald shouted. "Even after she did things that didn't sit right with you?" I asked her, making the girl look away. "Next, you found a boy named Mercury." I looked at one of the books, "Oh Romance." "He was the son of an assassin. Cinder took him in, but you wanted her all to yourself. I could even say you had feelings for her." I chuckled as I took out a book and looked through it. Emerald blushed and looked down at the floor. "How did he know?" "Then, she planned on hurting others. That doesn't bother you?" I asked the red-eyed girl. "That she wanted to hurt others, to make them suffer?" I looked at Emerald. "No," she said. "Why?" I asked. "Because they deserve to suffer." Emerald growled. "Why?" I asked once more. "Because I went through hell and the other people who walk the streets wear happy smiles." "Where's my happiness?" Emerald snapped. Sighing, I shut the book. "Well, you tried to do the best with the cards you were dealt with, but now, you have a chance with a clean slate." I put the book back. "So why waste it for someone who doesn't even miss you?" I expected Emerald to lash out, so I wasn't surprised when I found her hand around my throat. With her eyes filled with anger. No, nothing," she snarled. The look in her eyes is what I could recognize, the need for recognition, for someone to tell you that you mattered to them, the fear of being expendable. Reaching out, I put my hand on her cheek and she froze, like Toga. She yearned for acceptance, she just needed it from the right source. "Don't waste your chance," I told her. Emerald searched my eyes for deceit, for lies, but all she found was kindness and pity. Emerald let go and pointed at the door. "Get out," she ordered. I quietly left the room, the door slammed shut behind me. Other people would try to sugarcoat it, but she needed to hear the cold truth that she was a tool that once broken, would be discarded instead of repaired. I made my way out of the dorm and saw Kana leaning against the wall. "Give her time," I said, earning a nod from the heroine as I left the dorm with a heavy heart. The truth hurts, but it will also set you free. The next 2 days were the same: breakfast, training, lunch, back to training, then brainstorming, and finally sleep. But today I was walking to the support workshop to talk to Melissa about adding something to my suit. Melissa's been avoiding me. I hope I didn't do anything wrong. I made it to the studio and entered. May was working on her workbench, but no sign of Melissa. "Hey," I called her name. The pink-haired inventor turned to me. "Oh muscles, sorry can't talk." She turned back to her invention. "Where's Melissa?" I asked. That got her to stop. "Well, she turned to me. She told me to give you this." May reached into her pocket and took out an envelope. I frowned and took it from her and stared at her. "She's been occupied," May told me, and then turned to work on her invention. I left with the envelope, my original reason for going to the studio forgotten. Opening it as I walked, I read it hoping it would give me an idea of what I did to make her like this. "Izuku, I'm sorry for avoiding you, but please meet me at Gym Gamma at 6 p.m. Friday night. We need to talk. Don't tell anyone." I frowned at the short message. Tomorrow was Friday. Melissa. I wanted to go find her before that, but I had the feeling she would just avoid me. Groaning, I went back to the dorms. Something told me that this had to do with me having one for all. I just hoped this wouldn't break our friendship. The next day passed quickly. I was too preoccupied with Melissa's note. I wanted to talk to All Might about it, but she said not to tell anyone. I sat on my desk, my finger tapping the wood repeatedly in anxiousness. I looked at the clock, 5:39 p.m. Fuck it. I got up and walked to my closet and grabbed my black jacket and put it over my white shirt and put on my red shoes. I still had my PE pants on. I opened my balcony door and jumped off my balcony, using black whip to catch myself, and landed hard. I walked to Gym Gamma. Why was it always there? Maybe because it was private, unlike the other gyms. After 10 minutes, I arrived and saw the door to Gym Gamma ajar. I walked in and was met with blackness. "Melissa?" I called out her name as I walked in the dark. The lights suddenly turned on. I blocked the light with my hand as my eyes adjusted. Standing in the middle of the gym was Melissa, wearing the UA gym uniform, her arms behind her back. She didn't have her glasses on, her eyes were closed. "Melissa, what's going on?" I asked with a frown as I walked towards her. "Why?" I stopped as she asked that question. "Why?" I stopped in my tracks as I was confused by her question. "Why what? Why did he pick you?" Melissa opened her eyes, so it was about one for all. "Melissa, Uncle Might knew I wanted to be a hero. I wanted to help others, I wanted to be like those people in the comics, but he didn't even bring up the offer." Melissa spoke in a tone that I didn't recognize. "Even after his injury, even after he started to look for a successor, he never considered me a candidate." Melissa closed her eyes. "I still wanted to save people, like the heroes I make the support items for. I was jealous of them, of people who had the chance." I listened, biting my lip as Melissa spoke. I had almost given up, but then I saw Tony, how he was quirkless and used his smarts, then, one for all. She glared at me. I was furious, envious, hurt. She teared up. I wanted to be a hero, not just stay in the lab and make the items for people. Melissa took a shaky breath. I understood where she was coming from. I read her origins, how she wanted to be a hero, how becoming a support item creator was a fallback on her original dream. Finding out about a quirk that could be passed on that belonged to someone she considered an uncle. "That's why we're here, I want to understand." Melissa steeled her gaze and then the lights shut off, engulfing the gym in darkness. I was about to speak but then I heard the sound of metal hitting the floor and then a familiar sound. Repular. My danger sense flared and I jumped back just in time to hear a metal clang echo across the room. The lights turned on and I was surprised to see Melissa getting up. Her hands not visible, on her hands were two metal gloves with white circles on the palms. I just noticed she also had iron boots. Should have figured that wouldn't have landed. Melissa chuckled as she unzipped her jacket and took it off, showing that she only had a sports bra on and a harness holding an arc reactor. "Melissa, we shouldn't be doing this." I tried to talk her down. Melissa simply ran towards me and threw a punch at me. I easily dodged it. Melissa wasn't trained in CQC. Melissa threw another punch and kept trying to hit me as I kept dodging. I felt bad, but I didn't want this. "I'm not gonna fight you," I exclaimed and grabbed her arms. Melissa tried to break out of my grip and then smirked. "Don't underestimate me." A familiar hum sounded and then light filled my vision. I let go and rubbed my eyes. She freaking blinded me. I then felt a punch land across my cheek, sending me stumbling back a bit. I dodged the next punch with the help of danger sense. I kept dodging with the help of the fourth quirk. Thankfully my sight returned just in time for me to catch her fist and put her in a chokehold. "I'm not fighting you," I growled as I held on tight. "Why?" She aimed the glove at my face and I closed my eyes to avoid another flash, but Melissa stomped on my foot hard, causing me to let go. "Damn," I leaned back to avoid a swipe of her gloved hand. "Fight me," Melissa demanded as she shot repulsor beams at me. I dodged and then used black whip to restrain her. Melissa struggled and then fell back and used her boots to propel herself back. I jerked forward as she was pulling hard. Melissa took the opportunity to rocket towards me and kick me in the stomach. I doubled over as I almost lost my lunch. I caught her next punch and pushed her away hard. "You really want this?" I asked as I stood up straight. Melissa took out a scrunchie from her pocket and put her hair in a ponytail. Yes, she got into a fighting stance. This was just like my fight with Bakugo, except it was with someone who didn't know how to actually fight. I sighed. Fine. I got into my fighting stance. Melissa had some pent-up anger she needed to vent. I activated FC at 5% and charged at her. Melissa tried to blind me again but I closed my eyes and dodged her left jab. Quickly moving behind her, I slapped the back of her head as she turned and tried to punch me again. I redirected any punches she threw at me. I only attacked by slapping the back of her head. I didn't want to hurt Melissa. Melissa seemed to have caught on to my intentions and got frustrated as she started to swing wildly. I kept dodging until I noticed her movement slowing down. Soon, Melissa stopped and fell to her knees, breathing heavily. "Got it out of your system?" I asked her. Melissa looked up at me. The rage had left her eyes and now all that was left were some tears. I bit my lip as she cried, letting out her emotions. Slowly, I knelt next to her and held her close. "I'm sorry," Melissa whispered, accepting the hug. We stayed like that for a couple of minutes. Her cries turned into sniffles. I pulled away and helped her stand up. I walked over to her discarded jacket and picked it up. I went back and handed it to her. "I honestly expected you to be angrier than this." I chuckled as Melissa held the jacket. "I see why he picked you." She looks at me. "You didn't even try to fight back. Even after I kept baiting you." "I wanted to try and resolve things peacefully, but you seemed like you had a lot of anger stored up," I commented as I wrapped my arms around her. "And it was stupid for you to try and fight me without any actual training," I added. "Hey, I watched some videos on fighting," Melissa mumbled. "Watching and actually learning from a master are two different things entirely. Look, you just need to get better control of your repulsors and try to use them more," I explained with a smile. "Why didn't he pick me?" Melissa asked me. "Because he cared about you, the villain in Camino. He was after one for all. If he got you mixed up in this war and something happened to you, he wouldn't forgive himself." I explained it the best I could. "At least that's what I think." I shrugged. "If you want to know why he did it, you have to ask him," I told her. Melissa nodded and looked at her jacket. I looked at the arc reactor on her chest, trying not to look at her. "Is that?" "It's only a prototype. I haven't gotten to the Mark II yet. I just needed this," she responded before I could finish asking. "Are you okay?" I asked her. Melissa sighed. A bit better, yeah, thank you. She put on her jacket. I'm gonna head back, the boots and gloves are not comfortable at all. I laughed as we walked to the doors. Well, you have a long way to go, you get there. I patted her back, we left the gym and locked the doors. Thanks, and Izuku? Yeah? I turned to look at her and was surprised when she kissed my lips. I froze as she pulled away blushing. Thanks, she ran off, face steaming hot. I stayed there for a good 5 minutes as my brain rebooted. Melissa kissed me. I shook my head and walked back to the dorms. First Wanda, now Melissa. Why did it feel like my love life was gonna get more complicated? Chapter endnotes. Thank you all for your patience. I hope you enjoyed this chapter and I realized it reached over 100,000 words. I'm so happy. Happy birthday to Lady Nagant, or as we now know her as officially Kana Tsutsumi. Also happy birthday to Naruto Uzumaki. I am working on a new project. Yes, Hero of Olympus is on hold because of issues. I want to get back to it but it's difficult. This project is a reaction FIC. All I'm gonna give right now, don't even know when I'll release it. Also all hail the Unicorn Princess, Chapter 29 Chapter Notes. Hey everyone, I'm here. Bringing you a new chapter. This chapter was very hard to write and it was also fun, but the reason it took me so long was because of my new job and it's cutting my time on writing and other stuff. So I hope you enjoy it and if you didn't, sorry but can't do much about it. See the end of the chapter for more notes? An interview? I asked Nezu. I was sitting in front of the principal with All Might sitting next to me. It was 6 days till the provisional license exam. Nezu nodded. I frowned, then it dawned on me. The Public Safety Commission asked you to do this, didn't they? I deadpanned. Nezu simply responded with another nod. They want you to make a statement as All Might's successor. Nezu responded. This is because people are desperately searching for a new symbol to rally behind. All Might deduced, making me sigh, leaning back on my chair. Correct. Nezu. People have been asking questions and have, well, camping outside of Ua to catch a glimpse of you. Nezu commented as he took a sip of his tea. I groaned. I really don't need this. When did they want this interview to happen? I asked the principal. In 2 days' time, they already scheduled an interview with a well-known talk show. I felt my left eye twitch in annoyance, holding back another groan. I rubbed my face. All Might gave me a sympathetic look. Don't worry, young Midoriya, I'll be with you during the interview. All Might patted my back. At least I won't be alone. I grumbled. I didn't even want to go to this interview. Is there anything I need to know? I asked my mentor. In interviews, you need to be careful of what you say. People can twist your words or take them too seriously. All Might tugged on his collar. The media are vultures. I can agree with Aizawa on that. The #1 hero remembered times when reporters mistook his words for something else and he had a bit of backlash. I chewed on my lip. I mean, I normally speak my mind and that worked out for me so far. Nezu smiled. While it is refreshing, please refrain from insulting anyone. No promises. I grinned mischievously. All Might looked at me in worry. Please don't anger anyone, he begged. An interview? My classmates asked in shock as I told them the news after another day of Ultimate Moves training. Yeah, people want to know more about me and now they push me into an interview. Sato got any sweets? I asked the sugar boy who just took out a tray of muffins from the oven. I swiped one with Black Whip. Hey. Need my sweet quota and yours are the best in this dorm. I sat down on the couch with Mina jumping to sit next to me. Why is it you getting all these interviews and all the attention? Mina pouted, wearing her Ua jogging pants and a blue shirt. Jealous? I asked with a smirk as I took a bite of my muffin. Don't worry, Pinky. I teasingly patted her head. You get a chance. I couldn't see the purple hue on her cheeks as I went back to eating my muffin. I agree with Mina, totally jealous but also somewhat understandable. Kami sat on the chair wearing shorts and a tank top. I did my best to not stare at her legs. Yeah, Midoriya is All Might's successor. Kaminari commented as he had a phone charger in his mouth with Jiro sitting next to him with her phone connected to said charger. And he's taking down Stain. The electric user continued. I had help. I interjected. In your little speech. Shoto walked up next to the couch. Crime rate went down a bit after the video went viral. I looked up at the fire and ice user in surprise. It did? It's true. Momo took out her phone and showed me a graph. I stared at the numbers. After the video of me taking down Stain was released, the crime rate did go down in Japan, just a small percentage. Huh. I blinked. So it is true. How do you not know that? Zero demanded. It was your speech that caused it. Zero, there are more important things than following your own social statues. Funny, in my old life, I would be following my social media and tags like a hawk. Says the person whose little sister has merchandise of her big brother. Bakugo walked by with a mug in hand. Blushing, I remembered when Arie came running into the dorms in a homemade Dekiru costume that Mom made. She was going around with a fake shield and was trying to fight us as if we were villains. It was so cute when she said, I am Dekiru. Oh, that was so cute. Uraraka squirmed on her place on the couch. Toru squeals a bit. I have that video saved. I chuckled a bit at the memory. Yeah, I know, Mom showed it to me at least 4 times yesterday. So what are you gonna say in the interview? Sue asked, her face blank as ever. Biting my lip, that was something I wasn't sure of yet. Not really sure, I just need to answer some questions that the people want to ask me, I responded. Iida made his usual arm-chopping motions. You're representing Ua and All Might, you must prepare. Iida is right, you're becoming quite the icon, Momo spoke up. Finishing my muffin, I looked up at the ceiling, thinking of the words of my classmates. So where are you gonna do this interview? Kirishima asked as he was drinking a protein shake. Oh, Hero watch. I told them. Mina shot up. Hero Watch. That's a very popular program. She shook me. You can't take that lightly. I stopped her before I let out my recently eaten muffin. It's just an interview, I mumbled. Wrong. It's a statement. People all over the world will be watching. Mina grabbed my face. You gotta be the best you can be. Don't mind Ishido. Kirishima pulled the pink head off. She's just a huge fan of Sakura Fuminaki. How can I not? Mina retorted. She always looks for the truth and takes no shit from anyone. Kami grinned. I think Mina found her spirit animal. Jiro looked up from her phone. From the looks of their channel, Hero Watch always gets the first interview with the newest heroes. Just a week after Mount Lady's debut, she was on the show. Jiro hummed. I frowned. Guess I need to prepare. I got up and walked out before anyone said anything else. Today was the day of the interview. Putting on a suit and being taken by Tsukachi via car to Hero Watch studio with All Might sitting in the passenger seat and Kana sitting next to me in the back. Acting as a bodyguard, she wore her Lady Nagant costume. I'm not letting you get targeted by anyone else. She told me when I asked why she was tagging along. She was really protective over me. I looked out the window as we went through the city. So why does it have to be so early in the morning? I asked. Kana yawned. I agree with the kid. She leans her head against the window. And can we stop for coffee? Tsukachi sighed. The interview is scheduled for 9 a.m. Best way to do this is for us to go early. The detective was staring at the road, his hands clutching the steering wheel tightly. Tsukachi. The man looked at me from the rearview mirror. If you're still processing all of what I told you, sorry. I apologized with a frown on my face. All Might looked at his friend, who sighed and gave a small smile. I'll admit, I thought a lot about it after you told me and I still can't believe it, but my quirk doesn't lie. He took a moment to look back at me. I'm glad you're here to change things. I couldn't help but smile back. Anything to help? Any sightings of Kurogiri yet? I asked, my tone changing to one of seriousness. No, we haven't gotten anything yet. Tsukachi stared at the road. What happens if Tsukachi finds him? All Might asks. In the original timeline, Gran Torino and Tsukachi find Kurogiri. Gigantamakia arrives and you guys barely escaped, I sighed. That's why I need to be there. I told them. What? No, All Might denied instantly. You will not be going anywhere with Tsukachi. I narrowed my eyes on my mentor. Name someone who can use super strength, has unbreakable tendrils and a power amplifier in case things go south. I crossed my arms. If Gigantamakia is as strong as you described, you won't be fighting him, All Might argued. I may be the only one who's capable of fighting him. I countered. If Shigaraki gains control of that beast, all is lost. All Might sighed and palmed his face. Tsukachi, back me up here, he begged his friend. I hate to say it. He has a point, Toshi. All Might snapped to stare at his friend in disbelief. What? We don't have any heroes who can take on Gigantamakia, at least able to go toe-to-toe with him long enough for us to sedate him. Tsukachi sighed. We might not be able to do it without him. Any other heroes are available. All Might screamed. Sensei. My mentor turned to me. I'll be fine. I gave him a smile. All Might's stare softened. I'm not happy about it. Oh, I know, but I have a plan on how to restrain him. I smirked as I looked at Kana, who was silent. My sweat dropped as I saw her sleeping with her face pressed against the window. We finally arrived at Hero Watch Studio. I walked through the hall with All Might walking next to me, Kana and Tsukachi behind us. Kana had a cup of coffee in hand, slowly waking up. Looking around, I thought back to Izuku's memories. He would watch this program a lot to get the latest scoop on new heroes. Never thought I would be the hero in this interview. I stopped as I saw a woman with pink hair and green eyes walking towards us. Izuku Midoriya. Sakura Fuminaki. The woman offered a hand for me to shake, which I did. She looked exactly like Sakura Haruno, even had the forehead mark on her forehead. And All Might, nice to see you again. Sakura turned to the retired hero who smiled. Same to you. I remember coming here years ago. Business has been booming, he asked. Yeah, new hero? We're there to get the first scoop, Sakura smirked at me. And I can't wait to dig into your past. I need an adult. I said blankly. Sakura smirked wider. Era, I am an adult, go to the changing room. Our makeup artists will work on you. Sakura walked past us. What happened? I asked my mentor. All Might sighed. Sakura Fuminaki, she's a fiery one, always looking for the truth. I don't like her. Kana glared at where Sakura left. Tsukachi checked his watch. I'll be back after the interview ends. I need to get back to the office and get some work done. The detective left. I was about to say something until I was pulled away by people who I could only assume were the makeup crew. Don't resist young Midoriya, just let it happen. All Might followed after me with Kana behind him. After having some makeup put on my face to make sure I looked more presentable and 5 minutes of hairdressers patting my fluffy green hair with content looks on their faces, was it that fluffy? I was finally ready and was sitting on a couch in the middle of a talk show set. Sakura was sitting on her own armchair. All Might was next to me. He gave me a comforting pat on the shoulder. It'll be fine, he assured me. Turning to the camera, I felt my nervousness grow inside me. I took a deep breath to calm myself. I saw Kana standing by the camera crew with her arms crossed. We'll be starting in 3 minutes. One of the people behind the cameras called out. Sakura put the water on the side table. Ready? She asked me. I looked at All Might, who smiled. I looked at Sakura. Ready as I'll ever be, I answered. We're going live in 3, 2, 1. The director counted down, and when he reached 1, Sakura spoke in a cheery tone. Good morning, Japan. Welcome to a very special episode of Hero Watch. Today, we're talking to 2 special guests. I was tapping my finger on my leg out of anxiety. We're here with All Might and his successor Izuku Midoriya, also known as the Viridian hero. Deku. Sakura introduced us. I am here, All Might waved with a smile to the camera. Hello, nice to be here. I gave a small smile as I gave a wave of my own. Now if you want to join in on the fun, ask your questions on our Twitter account with the hashtag #AMSuccessor. Sakura looked at me. Now I'll start us off with a question that I'm sure everyone's been thinking about. How did you and All Might meet? Smiling, I answered. I met my mentor almost a year before I took the exam to get into UA. I recalled the day, from both Izuku's perspective and from my memories of the show. I was just walking through the streets, heading home. As I walked under the bridge and was attacked by the sludge villain. Sakura tilted her head. You were the kid who got attacked in the news? She asked me. No, that was my friend and rival, Bakugo Katsuki. I corrected her. I was the first victim. I revealed. But thankfully, I was saved by All Might. I was fanboying so hard, I mean who wouldn't? I joked. All Might snickered. I seem to remember that you said that the autograph would be a family heirloom. He teased. I flushed red and elbowed him. Shush, that information is not needed, I hissed. Sakura giggled. Oh, don't be embarrassed, I think I can speak for some people that they would act like that. My blush receding, I continued. Well, I saw that he had the villain trapped in a water bottle, we exchanged some words and he left. Then how did he escape? Sakura asked. All Might rubbed the back of his head. It kinda fell out of my pocket. I patted my mentor's back. We're only human, All Might, I assured him. After he left, I continued to make my way home. Then I saw explosions from down the road and found the incident where Bakugo was being held hostage. The moment I saw him in that villain's grasp, my body moved on its own and I ran in to save him. I leaned back on the sofa. When I arrived, I saw the boy running into danger to save his friend when others just stood in the sidelines. I was in awe at the action, so I moved to help the boy. All Might took over and grinned. When it was all over, I took the boy in as my successor. I knew that he had the potential to do great things. Sakura smirked. So basically, you found a boy who ran into danger and said, I want that one, she asked. I snorted as I looked at my mentor. Well, was it? I asked All Might, who blushed a bit. Maybe, he chuckled. The hostess laughed as she brushed her hair. So, next question, why Deku? She asked. Well, when I turned 4, I didn't get my quirk. I was thought to be quirkless through my entire life because my quirk needed time to build up energy. It's a stockpiling quirk. Once I built up enough muscles, I could use some of its power. It finally activated on the day of the UA entrance exam. I smiled. Sakura's eyes widened. So you were going into the exam after only gaining your quirk that day? She asked in wonder. Yup. While others were running towards their goals, I was learning how to crawl, but I was determined to get it right. Back on topic, I was called Deku because of my quirkless status. I explained. It stuck with me, and when the day came where I had to pick a hero name, I knew I wanted to make that name something special, and a friend told me that it sounded like Deku, so I went with that. I closed my eyes imagining Uraraka telling me those words. Sakura saw the look and smirked. Oh, and who is this friend? She asked. I opened my eyes and blushed lightly. I'm a classmate, I responded. Sakura smirked wider as she knew that there was more, but decided not to point it out right now. Okay, so next question. Sakura took out a tablet. This is from a user named Flare43Veer. Deku, who is your favorite hero besides All Might and Maruko? She asked. I blinked. Well, there goes my answers. Well, I like Hawks, he's so cool and fast, I grinned. Interesting, is that why you have goggles as part of your costume? She asked. No, those were for practical use, I responded. Let's go to the next one then. Here's an interesting one. From Nidarakia333, Deku, why did you want to become a hero? I always wanted to be a hero to save people. Seeing All Might's debut videos as a kid inspired me to become that kind hero, I grinned. Well, I can imagine a cute green-haired boy watching it. Sakura then blinked and put a finger on her chin, then stared at me. You know, I bet you were an adorable kid. I blushed in embarrassment, I can vouch. All Might grinned. His mom showed me pictures. All Might. I blushed harder. Oh, I can see it now. Sakura laughed. I tried my best to not pout. I was on live television, I wasn't going to pout. Sakura controlled her laughing. Okay, I actually have a question for All Might. That victory pose, it was exactly like Deku in the first year sports festival. Was that something you both agreed to, or was that a heat of the moment kind of thing? Sakura asked. The TV behind us showed a side-by-side image of me and All Might doing the same pose. That was actually in the heat of the moment. I answered. I won the sports festival and felt very accomplished, I grinned. And I felt the same, taking down the villain who was controlling things in the darkness, coming out on top gave me the same feeling. All Might patted my shoulder. So you took inspiration from your student? Sakura smiled. That's very nice. I continued to answer Sakura's questions that were either from the fans or her own questions. Why did I use a shield? Well, I wanted to be a protector and I thought it would be better to have something like the shield. How was training with Mirko? No comment. I responded with a blank face. Do you have a girlfriend? No comment. I answered immediately, not wanting to open that can of worms. What's your relationship between Katsuki Bakugo and you? He's my best friend and rival, even if he doesn't admit it. Are you All Might's son? No, why does everyone think that? I exclaimed in exasperation while All Might denied it as well, though I don't think we convinced anyone. Okay, I'm gonna be real, we're all here to have a question that has been in everyone's mind since Kamino. She gave me a serious look. Are you really going to take over as the next symbol of peace? I could feel the eyes of thousands, no, millions of people on me. I closed my eyes. No, I answered. No, Sakura asked, confused. No, I confirmed. I'm not going to be the next symbol of peace. Why would I want to take a mantle that is already taken? I asked. I don't want to be an imitation of my mentor, I want to be my own symbol. I looked at All Might. I admire you, you are my idol, someone I strive to surpass, and I'm gonna do that. All Might smiled and patted my shoulder. I expect you to, my boy. Sakura leans in. And what symbol do you strive to be? She asked me. I looked at her and smiled. Hope. The answer was short, but there was weight to it. I want people to look at me and know that everything will be alright. To know that things will be better. All Might did that with his smile, but I aim to do that with my presence, I said with conviction in my tone. What a goal, surpassing the symbol of peace and our pillar of support, the pink-haired woman hummed. I can take the challenge of surpassing my mentor, but I won't be the one supporting our society. I crossed my arms. I'm not trying to offend you, All Might. I looked at him. But it's time for other heroes to take the spotlight. I looked at the camera. We're past the era of All Might. It's time for other heroes to help keep our society afloat. Instead of one strong pillar, we need hundreds of pillars to hold up this world. I explained. Especially the top 10 heroes. They're symbols in their own rights, I exclaimed. We've just been so blinded by All Might's light that we can't see them, but now it's time for them to step into the spotlight. Sakura stared at me with an inspired expression. She cleared her throat. And who are these symbols that we haven't seen? She asked. All Might looked at me. His smile couldn't be wider. He was inspiring others already. He felt so proud and felt more at ease with knowing that he left the world in capable hands. I grinned. Let's start with my other teacher, Mirko. I leaned forward. To me, she's a symbol of strength. I gave a smirk. She taught me a lot. I'm grateful to have learned under her. Next, we have Hawks, a symbol of speed. I chuckled. I mean, come on, tell me a hero who can beat him in that department. All Might hummed. Some old ones, but right now, I can't think of any, he commented. Sakura put a finger on her cheek. What about best genist? I looked right into the camera with a straight face. He's the symbol Jeans, I answered blankly. Sakura stared at me before she started to snicker. All Might covered his mouth to hide a laugh. I couldn't help it as I burst into laughter. Sorry, I couldn't help it. I didn't mean any disrespect, but I think he's an amazing hero. Honestly, I see him as a symbol of charisma. I answered truthfully this time. Then there's Edgeshot, he's a symbol of preservation. With his quirk, he weaves the thread that helps keep society together. I grinned. That's an interesting way to look at it. Sakura blinked. What about the others? Crust, a symbol of defense, but I like to think of him as more of a wall. A barricade that keeps villains from breaking down our walls, so to speak. I leaned back. Wash, he does so much for our society in his own way. He cleans up crime and can be very charismatic, but I believe he's more of a symbol of nurturing. I explained. All Might nodded next to me, agreeing with my words. Yoroi Musha and Ryuko aren't symbols. Ryuko is a fierce guardian and Yori Musha is a fierce warrior. Sakura hummed as she nodded. What about Endeavor? I bit my lip. Him. He's the symbol of power. I thought back to his fight against the high-end Nomu. Unlike All Might, his actions do the talking. He works hard to keep us safe by putting away villains and showing that nothing phases him. He enforces justice by showing his power. I crossed my arms. I'm not saying the other heroes are slouches. I'm saying that since All Might is now retired, heroes need to step up to protect our society from the threats, I finished. Well, this really opens my eyes. But I believe that's our time for today. Thank you for joining us, you two. Sakura smiled at us. Thank you for having us. I gave a small bow of my head. It was good to be back on here. All Might smiled. Thank you for tuning into this special edition of Hero Watch. It was finally over. I took a sip of my mango smoothie that All Might got for me as we walked through the hall to the garage. Tsukachi should be arriving soon. All Might said as he tapped something on his phone, probably texting the detective. Good, we can go home. Kana mumbled as she stayed next to me. I hummed with a nod as we entered the garage. Something was off and I could feel danger sense tingling. I looked around. The garage was quiet, a little too quiet. I scanned the garage, then caught a glimpse of a black SUV passing by in the far end of the garage with its back window down, and saw a woman with a hood, somewhat hiding her green hair. Wait. Nagant noticed and immediately shifted her arm to her rifle form and took some hair, creating a bullet. Just in time too. As she took her shot, she was able to hit the arrow that was aimed towards me. The SUV sped off and made its way to the exit. I put my drink down and was about to take chase. Auntie All Might put a hand on my shoulder. No, you don't have your license yet. I clicked my teeth in annoyance. Who was that? I mumbled as I leaned down and picked up my smoothie. I don't know. I didn't think you would be targeted this soon. All Might dialed Tsukachi's number. Yeah. Need you here soon. Someone just tried to kill young Midoriya. Kana shifted her arm back to normal and looked at me. You recognized her? I gazed at her. I did, but from where I'm still trying to figure out. I was trying to remember where I had seen her before. She frowned and walked over to where the arrow and bullet met. She knelt down and picked it up. Who uses a bow and arrow anymore? She asked. Trust me, lots of people do. I rolled my eyes as I came up next to her and took a good look at the arrow. No signature, no trace. Nothing. Kana got up with a scowl and sighed as Tsukachi's car came in through the entrance at an alarming speed and stopped with a loud screech that made me flinch. The detective got out and looked at the arrow in Kiana's hand. Did you get a good look at her? He asked. Greenish hair and a hood and mask. Besides that, nothing. Kana answered. I didn't even get to see the license plate. She gritted her teeth. All Might came over. All for one? He asked. I shook my head. No, I think we have a new player on the board. I sighed at the implication. I don't know what's gonna happen next, that worries me the most. So he recognized you? Fleck turned asked as he sat behind his desk in his office. His skin glowing its luminescent light blue as he looked at the screen showing his bow-wielding agent. Yes, I could see it in his eyes. Barrows responded as she was still in the SUV. Return to base, stay hidden until you're given further instructions. Fleck ended the call and to the side. A man standing in front of a window wearing a suit with black hair which has been combed. Why did you have me send Barrows? Fleck asked the man. Because I had my suspicions about Izuku Midoriya. The man answered in a smooth tone. He turned to face Fleck, showing his stern-looking face and brown eyes. And this confirms my suspicions. He walked over. He is like me. Like you? Fleck raised an eyebrow. Not relevant to you. How is the procurement of the schematics? The man asked, sitting in front of Fleck. Delays because of island security, but we will get them. Fleck responds while narrowing his eyes at the man in front of him. That is because you have more people on your little terrorist plot. The man commented. You could have gotten the schematics by now if you had everyone working on it. Fleck glared. Need I remind you that I am the leader? He got up. I am the leader of Humorize. Our goal is to cure humanity of the disease known as quirks. You won't even share your goal. You. But his skin turns from blue to a pale white as the man grabbed Fleck's throat and choked him. My goal is not relevant to you, not to the other Humorize agents. No one but me. He glared at Fleck. I let you keep your role as leader to stick to the shadows. I only wish to complete my goals and your cult is a way for me to complete it. He squeezed hard, making Fleck grasp the man's arm in an attempt to use his quirk, but it was useless. Remember your place, Fleck turned. If you think of betraying me, I will not hesitate to drop you and take over if needed. He let go and Fleck's quirk returned. Do I make myself clear? Fleck rubbed his throat and glared at the man. Yes, Null. The man, Null growled. I hate that name. He walked and opened the door, leaving the room. Keep me posted. The man left the room. The man walked through the hall and looked at his hand. Someone like me is here. I need to talk to them. We can go home together. Leave this nightmare. He clenched his fist. Chapter end notes and scene. Woo chapter, I have plans, big plans. I saw World Hero Mission and I gotta say, I was impressed and disappointed. Impressed because of the movie itself and disappointed because they only kept the stealth suit for one segment. I wanted more of that suit, so cool. Anyway, I will be alternating between this and the MHA Watch's infamous series and it will take me a lot of time to get them done, so please be patient. I also saw the manga today and wow. Wow. I might implement the thing. Because my story is heavily tied to canon even with the upcoming changes. I just feel so bad and surprised. I wish it wasn't how it was and that it was a lie, but like Horikoshi gave us a sucker punch. Anyway, see you in the next one. Chapter 30 Chapter notes. Hey, just noticed, it's been a year since I posted the first chapter of this story. I feel proud for this milestone. Thank you for being patient. See the end of the chapter for more notes. The provisional license exam, today was the day. A day after the interview, hero activity skyrocketed throughout Japan and even worldwide. According to my classmates, my interview started to push heroes to do their absolute best. The top 10 spots on the Billboard chart were now called the pillars of society, being the ones who contributed the most. I was officially dubbed the symbol of hope by the people, all agreeing that the title fit me. People took my words seriously. Was it because of my status as All Might's successor, or was it because people understood what I was saying and decided to act? The top 10 heroes took their titles into stride. I heard from Shoto, who heard from his sister, that Endeavor was pleased with his title, symbol of power, even if he tried to hide it. Hawks waved off the title as he had more responsibility put on him, but did admit it sounded cool. Genus took the titles to heart as he loved them both. I don't know if he knew I was joking or he was joking also, but the fact that I got a package from him with a couple of jeans in them made me think he wasn't. In Bakugo laughing when he saw me take the jeans out of the package didn't help. Jokes on him though, I like the jeans. Edgeshot accepted the title as he said, I will keep the world together with my quirk as much as I can. Crust was very vocal with his acceptance of his title, calling me the manliest person out there. Kirishima agreed with me, though he backtracked when I asked, I thought that was Bakugo. He stopped and blushed feverishly, apologizing to his bro as Bakugo didn't give a shit about it. I'm convinced they're dating but haven't seen any proof yet. Mirko loved her title and was kicking ass harder than before, if the last person she beat up being sent to a hospital was any indication. Ryukyu and Yoroi accepted their titles when they were asked. They weren't boastful about it, which showed that they took their jobs very seriously. Other heroes tried to give themselves titles, but it never stuck since I wasn't the one who gave them titles. Geez, people ate stuff like this up, didn't they? Deku. I jumped as I nearly dropped my phone. I looked up to see Uraraka looking down at me from her seat in front of me. We're nearly there, she gave me a smile. Thanks, Uraraka. I returned a smile of my own as I put my phone away. I looked out the window of the bus to see the large coliseum where we would be taking the exam, National Dagoba Arena. We would be facing students from other schools. I felt giddy at the thought, but this was like taking the exam with all the answers. I don't know if they're gonna change the exam, but if they don't. I looked at Bakugo, who sat a few seats in front, and then at Shoto, who sat 2 seats behind me. These two needed to pass. Inasa Yorashi, a student from Shiketsu who has beef with Shoto, I needed to intervene. The bus stopped in front of the stadium and we all stepped out of the bus. Mr. Aizawa walked in front of us. I'm getting kinda nervous, Jiro shuddered. Me too, I hope we can all get our licenses, Kaminari gulped nervously. Aizawa turned to us. If you can pass this test and get your provisional licenses, then you novice eggs will hatch into chicks, you'll be semi-pros. Aizawa gave us a narrowed look. I expect your best. Kirishima grinned. Alright, now I'm pumped, let's call out the usual guys. I noticed Inasa walking up behind Kirishima with a wide smile, creepy. Plus, ultra, I chuckled as everyone jumped back at Inasa's enthusiasm. It's rude to barge into someone's huddle like that, Inasa. A purple-haired student scowled. Inasa simply looked at everyone. Pardon me. He slapped his hands to his sides. I am so very extremely sorry. He bowed so low he hit his head on the pavement. Who is this guy? I do not trust his enthusiasm. Kaminari looked weirded out. Jiro blinked. Hey, look at their uniforms. They're from that famous school on the other side of Japan, Shiro added. Bakugo stared at the Shiketsu students calmly. Ua in the east, Shiketsu in the west. As Inasa went off on his spiel, the purple-haired boy walked up to me. I blinked as he stared at me with judging eyes. What was his name, Sanji? Saju? So you're the symbol of hope, and successor of all might. He narrowed his eyes. Inasa stopped to look at us. You don't look like much. I raised an eyebrow. Appearances can be deceiving. I responded, and you don't look like much either. Seiji. Ah, Seiji, that was it. Don't cause any trouble. Nagama Samura called out. Fine, Seiji. Walked away. I suddenly felt my hand being grabbed and being shaken rapidly. It's such an honor to meet you. Inasa grinned at me widely and let go, going after his classmates. What? I muttered, slightly dazed. Inasa Yorashi. Aizawa spoke up. Toru looked at him. Do you know him, Mr. Aizawa? She asked. Indeed, he's strong. He's the same year as you are and received the top scores for students who've been admitted through recommendations. He explained. But for some unknown reason, he rejected his acceptance letter and went to Shiketsu. Hold up, I'm confused. He said he loves our school but turned down his chance to enroll when it was offered. Shiro asked. Yeah, what a weirdo, Mina added. Maybe, but he's the real deal. Keep an eye out. Aizawa commented before he tensed up after hearing a familiar voice. Eraser. I looked at the source and smirked when I saw Ms. Joke walking over. I know that scowl anywhere. I stifled a laugh. I saw you on TV and at the sports festival, but it's been a while since we've been this close in person. Aizawa looked ready to hang himself with his own capture weapon. Let's get married. No, Aizawa turned down Ms. Joke, who burst out laughing. You're a real ride, buddy. And you're impossible as always, Joke. Aizawa's eyes twitched. Ms. Joke, the smile hero and the grouchy eraserhead. I whispered to Kami, who giggled. Opposites attract, she whispered back as I nodded. Don't, we jumped as Aizawa gave us a death glare, but our grins didn't falter. Aizawa sighed. Joke, if you're here then that means. Joke grinned wider. That's right. She turned to call out to her students. Over here everyone, it's Ua. I saw the Ketsubutsu students walking towards us. Yoshindo, the look-alike, his quirk is vibrations. Good thing I had something to counter that. Ketsubutsu Academy, second years, class 2. My class. Ms. Joke introduced. Shindo came up to me and took my hands. I'm Shindo. Ua has been through a lot this whole year, hasn't it? He greeted me with a friendly smile. I watched as he went to do the same with Kaminari as he continued speaking. Well, I hope we can learn from you too, Shindo, though, I can see right through you. I gave a small smirk. Shindo looked at me surprised, then had a smirk of his own. We'll see. He walked away. I turned and chuckled as the blonde girl was fangirling over Shoto. Hey, Aizawa called out. Get changed into your costumes and go to the orientation, don't waste time. He ordered as I picked up my case and bag that had my shield. We were still famous, hey, but what they didn't know is how much we'd grown. I was the last one in the locker room as I put the shield on my back. This was me taking the next step. The necessary one. Once I have my license, I'll be able to help more with the plans I set in motion. Adjusting my gloves, I felt a small tingle in the back of my head, not danger sense. It wasn't a warning but. Shaking my head, I walked out of the locker room. Walking through the large crowd, I searched for my classmates. I soon spotted Uraraka and made my way to her. So many, I mumbled as I walked up next to her. There was a loud sigh as all the attention was shifted to the man on the desk with guards besides him. Mera, an agent of the Hero Safety Commission. I didn't know much about him. I tuned out the whole explanation. It was the same as the anime, using the orange balls to tag a person. The third one you tag means that you pass and the other person is defeated. At least I think so. I rubbed my head in annoyance. I could feel the uneasiness as the situation set in. My classmates were nervous. The room shaking snapped me out of my thoughts as I looked around, the whole room opening up like a box, showing the area where we'll be taking our tests, different zones, a city, industrial factory, rocky terrain, a part of a city with a highway and even a forest with a waterfall. Mera walked away after finishing his explanation. This was it. I ran to my classmates. Okay guys, game plan. I looked at Bakugo. I know you want to go out and do your own thing, so instead of trying to convince you, I'll allow it, but you have to bring at least 2 others with you. The explosive team gritted his teeth and walked over grabbing Kaminari and Kirishima. Come on you morons. He dragged them off. Okay, hopefully they'll help him pass the first test. Who am I kidding? He'll pass either way. With his tenacity. I turned to Todoroki who was walking away. Oh no you don't. I grabbed the back of his collar. We're sticking together. I gave him a hard look. We stared at each other before he sighed and nodded. Good. Anyone else have any objections? I asked my class. I received no responses. Alright, let's go. I ran with the rest of Class A towards the rocky area. Okay everyone, listen up. I looked at the remainder of my class. The other schools know about our quirks, I revealed. What but how? Mina asked as she looked around. Ah yes, the sports festival. Iida responded, his eyes widening in realization. Our skills are televised all over the world. Sure, it gives us publicity but also gives away what we can do. I explained as I stopped causing everyone else to do the same. But what they don't know is how fast and how much we've improved. I gave them a smirk. That's how we'll— I stopped as I sensed danger all around us. I turned and saw a wild army of students with orange balls in their hands ready to throw. Shindo grinned. Can't stop all of us with those whips, can you? He asked as he threw the orange ball with hundreds more following. The crushing of UA, not today, Uraraka, Saturn's ring, I gave the order. The girl's eyes widened in realization as she put her fingers together, the balls suddenly stopped in place. The thing about UA, I started as I grabbed 4 balls with my whips and smirked. When we jump, we aim for the stars. I lashed out, letting the balls fly. My classmates did the same, grabbing some of the floating balls and throwing them or kicking them. The other students jumped back to avoid the onslaught. Yo clicked his tongue. We need to split them up. He put his hands on the ground ready to use his quirk, but he immediately lifted his hands to catch my shield as I used Fa Jin to ram into him. Nope, I grinned. Yo smirked and tried to use his quirk, but with him holding my shield, it had no effect. Vibration absorbent for the win. Shindo's shocked expression was satisfying to see. I pushed myself off Shindo and landed next to Ochako. Looking at her and getting an idea, maybe. I grabbed her by the arm and pulled her onto my chest, helping her avoid some of the orange balls. Ochako looked up at me with her permanent blush deepening with my action. Winking, I pushed her away as more balls were thrown our way. I grabbed some of the orange balls with black whip and threw them towards a random hero student. 2 of the person's markers lit up. I dashed towards him and tagged his last one. I saw my classmates working together to tag the other students. I was proud of them. Spotting Kami, using her illusions to confuse some of the other hero students, I leapt over to her and tagged my last one. My markers turned blue and I saw Kami with her marker lighting up blue as well. Nice. I grinned at her. Thanks cutie. Kami winked with a flirty smile and we heard the announcement for those who already passed, to go to the break room where all test passers were supposed to go. Making my way to the break area with Kami, I spotted some of my other classmates and gave them a wave. We all passed. Mina jumped in place with glee. Don't see Bakugo, Kirishima and Kaminari though. Shiro commented as he searched the crowd. I hummed. He was probably going against, was his name Seiji right now. Bakugo jumped back from Seiji who was throwing lumps of flesh at him, using his explosions to move out of the way. Kaminari yelped and let out a shockwave, repelling the lumps of flesh, Kirishima behind him. Geez, this guy isn't even tagging anyone. Kirishima stared at the lumps of flesh that were once people. I respect Ua High School. Seiji spoke up. I take pride that we're considered equals. He glared at Bakugo. However, you lot continuously act in ways that cause its dignity to decline. Bagwo narrowed his eyes and stepped up. Obligations, dignity? He cracked his neck. You keep talking and not showing action. Actions speak louder than words. He aimed his gauntlets at the Shiketsu student. Seiji growled. Especially you, Bakugo. He shot the flesh at 3 Ua students. AP shot. Autocannon. Bakugo fired small compressed shots coming his way. Right, stay behind me, he ordered. Kirishima did as he was told but was also shocked by Bakugo's order. Hey, what about me? Kaminari shrieked as he dodged the meatballs. Use your electricity to repel, dumbass, Bakugo snapped at Kaminari. Seiji gritted his teeth. This is a demonstration of power. Catching the trio's attention. This test has an unusually low passing rate. Since All Might's retirement, we've reached a turning point. Wouldn't it be appropriate to increase the number of heroes? Bakugo scowled as he listened. He didn't like what he was saying. Namely, what this implies is that they're weeding out the riffraffs. Seiji explained. They're starting to become more selective in order to bring the hero profession to a higher level. I wish to support that. So I'm removing you folks right now. Kaminari looked confused. You're ignoring the test to do that? All your spouting is bullshit. Bakugo finally spoke. Seiji raised an eyebrow. You claim that you're doing this to weed out the weak, but all you're doing is stopping others from taking their chances to show what they can do. Bakugo glared. From what I can see, one touch of any of your shitty meatballs means that we could become one of those. He points at the lumps of meat surrounding the Shiketsu student. HMPH, you are correct. Seiji admitted. Then we'll just have to take you down, then we'll see who's weak. Bakugo exclaimed. Yeah, Kirishima shouted. Geez, you two are hardcore, Kaminari muttered, but he was with them all the same. Foolish. He sent more lumps of flesh towards them. I'm doing this for the betterment of— He stopped as he spotted something flying past his face, a small grenade. Boom! Seiji was sent back, his hat flying off as he landed on his back. Bakugo took that moment to blast forward and placed his foot on the Shiketsu student's chest with a hard look on his face. Don't talk shit when you don't know anything about us. Bakugo used a controlled explosion to blast his face to knock him out. Dude, that was so manly, Kirishima praised. Yeah, Kaminari agreed then stepped back. Whoa, those lumps were other students. He points at the students who were turning back to normal. Bakugo grinned savagely. Now, let's test these fuckers. Kirishima hardened his arms with a wide grin of his own. I walked through the crowd, looking for Inasa. If I could convince him to not be so cold towards Shoto, then they would both pass. Izuku Midoriya was it? I blinked as I turned to see one psycho intelli with her lackeys behind her. They were able to pass, but how? Oh yes, and you are? I raised an eyebrow. Why did she want to talk to me? Psycho intelli. I'm from CI Academy, she introduced herself. It's a pleasure to meet you. Can I do anything for you? I asked. I simply wish to meet the new symbol of hope. You have inspired a lot of people to take this course more seriously, myself included. She placed a hand on her chest. She reminded me of Momo with how proper she was. You're welcome, but I suppose that there's more to this conversation than meets the eye. I crossed my arms. Ah, perceptive I see. Well, I was hoping that maybe. She blushed and gave a shy smile. Wait. I was hoping, maybe we could exchange numbers and well, get to know each other more. She tilted her head. Shit, was she asking me out? I spotted Bakugo, Kaminari and Kirishima walking in the distance. I'll have to get back to you on that. I smiled and walked past her. I had to go check on my friend. I ran over to Bakugo. I hoped I didn't hurt her feelings. Walking up to Bakugo, Kaminari grinned. Yo, Midoriya, glad to see everyone in our class making it. Glad to see you three making it also. I high-fived both Kirishima and Kaminari. When my gaze fell on Bakugo, he had his arms crossed looking away from me. Bakugo. He looked at me and saw my fist raised. Staring at me for a solid minute, he bumped fists with me and walked away. I swore that my grin was wider than All Might's after he did that. Kaminari looked shocked, Kirishima looked pleased with a toothy grin. Dude, he looked at me as if I was a god. He fist bumped you. He then started to run after Bakugo trying to get a fist bump from the explosive blonde with Kirishima following. I chuckled and spotted Uraraka getting water. Walking over to her, I swallowed the lump in my throat and spoke up. Uraraka, she turned to look at me. Oh Deku, is everything alright? She asked me. I stared at her for a good while and my hands were a bit shaky. After the whole exam is done, do you want to go get mochi? I blushed. Just, you and me? Ochako blinked for a few moments before her face turned deep red. I like a date, she stuttered. Nodding, yeah, a date, if that's fine with you and all. No, she yelped. I would love to, she waved her arms around hysterically. I sighed in relief. So, can we talk about this later after the exam? I asked. Yeah, she nodded. Great, oh I need to go. I spotted Inasa with the rest of his classmates talking to Bakugo and Kirishima. Ochako nodded. I'm gonna see if they have some sweets here. I chuckled and patted her head before going towards the group. I kept my distance as I listened into the conversation. I could see Todoroki doing the same. The hairy student, Nagamasa, was talking about building a good relationship between schools. Well, I think that's what we should all strive for. I interjected as they turned to me. We're all gonna be working together one way or another someday, so why not start now? I grinned. Nagamasa nodded. He's correct. It'll be good to work with you all someday. He walked away as Todoroki approached Inasa. Hey, you with the shaved head. Inasa stopped and looked at Todoroki. Did I do something to you? Todoroki asked. Inasa gave Todoroki a cold look. Oh? Turning to face Todoroki, he spoke with a mocking tone. Well, I'm sorry, son of Endeavor, but I hate you guys. Frowning, I stomped over. Do you have a problem with my friend? I demanded. Friend? Inasa looked at me. You should pick better friends. You say that like you know him. I glared at him, my eyes briefly glowing with blue energy. But he doesn't even remember you. I can imagine you two meeting at the recommendation exam. I looked at Todoroki. Do you remember him? I asked him. His bluish-gray eyes widened as he remembered. You were the wind user that day, he muttered as he looked at Inasa. I'm sorry, he bowed. Inasa looked shocked. I didn't mean to act that way towards you. I realized that I was acting like my father, which is something I hated, but now I have changed. Inasa stared at Shoto with wide eyes. Inasa. I spoke up. Shoto isn't like his father, he's a good person who's trying to be a hero, and I know you want to be one too. Harboring anger towards a fellow hero does nothing but put others at risk, I told him. Shoto looked at me quizzically before an alarm started to sound. Villains have begun a large-scale terrorist attack. This is all occurring in city name here, the announcer spoke through the intercom. I rolled my eyes, they couldn't come up with an actual name? Due to buildings collapsing, there are many injured. Just then the whole room started to split open like the last one. And with the heavily damaged roads, the first group of rescue workers have been delayed. I looked into the city as the walls came down. Until they arrive, the heroes in the area will lead the rescue efforts. Save as many lives as you can. I called upon FC and waited. Start. Everyone sprung into action. I ran with some of my classmates along with other hero students into the ruined city. This is what being a hero was all about. Shigaraki stared out the window of the abandoned apartment building he was staying in. He felt tired, angry. The burnt fucker, Dabi left. Compress, he left too. There was nothing left of the League of Villains. Kurogiri left, to find something to turn the tide, but now. Shigaraki felt alone, for the first time in so long. He had no one to turn to, no one to help him. Was he really a player? He relied on his master for so long. Now he was gone and Shigaraki had no idea what to do. It was their fault, the heroes. Before Dabi left, he said something that stuck with him. You hate heroes so much, you don't even know why you hate them. He knew why, didn't he? He hated them because All Might toppled his master's empire and nearly killed him. No, that was the master's reason. What's my reason? He tried to think back, all his time with master, but there were missing pieces. Walking out the door of the room, he decided to take a long walk. Maybe he'll see something enlightening. I carried an actor, acting as a child, towards the evacuation zone. Here, don't worry, it'll be alright. I assured the boy with a strange face. This was so weird. Getting up, I made my way to the edge before I felt the ground shake. There has been a large-scale terrorist attack by villains. I turned around and saw Gang Orca along with his henchmen. The next step of the exercise. I looked around and then to a random student. Taken to safety, I ran into the fray. I tapped into F.A. Jin and crouched. F.A. Jin. Thunderstrike, I pushed forward, flying towards a henchman and punched their stomach. I pushed off once more, taking out 3 more henchmen. I put my foot down, stumbling as I saw some civilians getting left behind. I ran back and helped with evac. From the corner of my eye, I saw Inasa flying towards Gang Orca, as well as Shoto. I hope those two won't clash with each other but work together. Shoto leapt off his ice trail and ignited his hands. Stay back. He shot a torrent of flames at Orca. He gritted his teeth as Orca released a sound wave. Nice try, but you'll have to do better than that, he mocked Shoto. I have much more than that. He ignited his arms at the highest temperature. This is my own moveset, named after my bastard father's quirk. He whispered to himself. He took a deep breath as he tried to cool his insides with the ice part of his quirk. Thank you Midoriya, you curbed my weakness. Hellfire Fist. Hellblade. He spinned in place and slashed the air. An arc of fire made its way to Gang Orca. Orca crossed his arm and took the hit. I felt hotter flames from your father. He stomped forward but was stopped by a strong gust of wind. Looking up, Shoto locked eyes with Inasa. Inasa was skeptical. Seeing Shoto Todoroki again after the recommendation exam was shocking. He changed. He was more open, didn't have the same look as his father. Then he apologized when Izuku Midoriya stepped in. The words still rang in his head, harboring anger towards a fellow hero does nothing but put others at risk. He wanted to prove himself and one up the son of Endeavor, but as he looked into those gray mixed with blue eyes, he knew if this was a real situation, he would need to put those grudges aside and be a hero. Follow my lead, he screamed as he created a tornado of wind around Gang Orca. Shoto's eyes widened in realization as he ignited his arms. Got it? He shot a torrent of flames at the tornado, creating a blazing inferno. I stopped for a moment to stare at the flaming tornado with a smirk. That's my K. I leapt into the air, making my way to the battle. Shoto gritted his teeth as he could feel himself heating up from using fire as hot as this. Working together like this will help you in the long run. But what if your opponent is stronger? Orca let out a powerful sonic wave, breaking the tornado and sending Inasa back. I flashed in front of Gang Orca and went for a kick to the head, but he was able to block my kick with his metal bracer. I pushed a bit more until the siren blared, signaling the end of the exam. Falling to the floor, I landed on my feet and looked up at Gang Orca. If it's not too much, can I have your autograph? I asked with a smile as I presented my notebook, already having his page with the pen in my other hand. Oh sure. He took my notebook with the pen and signed. Huh, these are pretty detailed. He handed me back the notebook. Thanks. I smiled wider as I walked over to Todoroki. Are you feeling okay? I asked. Todoroki nodded, breathing heavily as he wiped sweat off his brow. Yeah, just not used to using high-tempered flames, he responded. I think you need to get used to the heat after using your ice all these years, I commented. That's what my father told me, Shoto muttered as we went to see the results of our exam. We went back to the locker rooms and changed out of our hero outfits and back into our school uniforms. Everyone gathered in front of the very large screen behind the stage, with Mara looking very tired as usual. I could feel the unease around me as I crossed my arms. If I did things right, Shoto and Bakugo should pass. I looked around and spotted Bakugo next to Kirishima. I really hope that he passes. He's changed so much since the sports festival. Congratulations to those who passed the exam. Your results will be shown on the screen behind me. Mara drawled out as he put his head on the desk. The screen showed the results. I searched the screen for my name. I found it. I passed. A grin started to form on my face as I then searched for Bakugo's and Todoroki's names. My grin became wider when I saw their names on the screen. All of Class 1A passed. Yes. Mina jumped for joy when she saw her name. I passed. Kami cheered. We all did. Uraraka cheered along with her. I walked over to Bakugo, who was smirking. You passed. I grinned. You doubted me? He glared but stopped when he saw my grin turn into a melancholy smile. I didn't. I slowly nodded. Hey, so what changed? He crossed his arms. Before you yelled at the civilians, I explained. I let Pikachu and Kirishima do the saving while I did the heavy lifting, he told me. Ah, so they didn't deduce your points. I muttered as an agent came over and handed us some forms with our results and suggestions on what needed to change. I got a high score. I didn't overthink, but I wasn't as efficient as I could have been. I peeked over Bakugo's shoulder and snorted at his low yet passing score. What did they recommend? I snickered. Shut up, you damn nerd, he growled. I laughed as he stomped away. I saw Inasa and Shoto conversing while looking at each other's papers. Maybe they could be friends now. It would be nice for Shoto to socialize. Deku, they're gonna take us to a place so they can take our picture, Ochako called out. I grinned and ran over. I stared at my new provisional hero license and I had to say. I was proud of myself. I came so far, made so many changes, helped so many people. Now I can do it without having to worry too much about the law. Now I just need to figure out who to do my work study with. Staring at the card, I didn't notice Kami stalking behind me. She lunged, making me jump as she hugged me from behind. Kami? I looked at her and blushed. Look, look, she held her card in front of me. I looked at her card and smiled. Looking good as always. I complimented her. Oh, you have such a way with words. She stuck her tongue out playfully. I laughed as she let go to show the others. I better send this to my mom and All Might. I took pictures of the card and sent them. Deku? I blinked as I looked up to see Ochako looking at me with a shy look. Oh hey Uraraka. Oh about that date. Tomorrow, she asked. Yeah, tonight I think we're gonna be pretty occupied. I responded with a grin. Party at the dorms. Mina cheered as she ran into the bus. I smiled and as I was about to pick up my case, I felt the tingling sensation again. It wasn't danger though. You don't use that. I turned around and my eyes went wide. I saw two transparent figures, two I recognized very well. You can't just take our supplies and throw them at the enemy. The first figure scolded. We'll be fine, we have our weapons. The second figure responded, then they disappeared. Midoriya, are you alright? I jumped as I looked at Iida. Oh, yeah, I'm fine. I answered as I looked at the spot where the two figures were. Let's go. Get her. Arie ran out of the kitchen of the dorms with a plastic container full of cookies in her arms. Mina, Denki and Siro were running after her. I watched with an amused look as Arie ran past me. Don't let her eat all those sweets. Iida joined the chase. I rolled my eyes as my mom walked over. You think it was wise to give her that container? I asked her. Mom giggled. She won't eat them all, she assured me. I'll take your word for it. I muttered. Arie, sweetie. I called out, making the little girl stop in her tracks. The pursuers stopped also but stumbled and fell just a few inches next to her. No sweets before dinner. I told her, making the unicorn girl pout. I laughed. No, I grabbed the container with black whip and pulled it away from her, catching it. I've seen her cute pouts Arie, they won't work on me. Even Bakugo can't say no when she pouts, Mina grumbled as she got up. I rolled my eyes and handed Mom the container. Here you go. Inko placed a hand on my cheek with teary eyes. I blinked as she smiled. I'm so proud of you. I smiled back and hugged her. Thanks Mom. I pulled away and walked over to Arie, picking her up. Let's go to the table. I told her while pinching her cheek. Arie nodded and I carried her away. After dinner, everyone was in the common area. Some were on the couch playing the newest Heroes Slab 5, a game that was like Street Fighters but with known heroes. I was surprised that there was something like that but I had to admit, I had fun playing it. Stop. Spamming. The kick button. Kaminari growled as he was trying to escape the onslaught of kicks I was giving. He was playing as Snipe, I was playing as Maruko. I smirked. Then move noob. I taunted as I moved out of the way. Snipe tried to shoot but I used a special move to beat him down. Gah! Kaminari dropped the controller and crossed his arms. My turn. Mina grabbed the controller. Here. I gave the controller to Arie who was on my lap. Mina looked at me with a heated glare. You're the personification of evil, she hissed. Mina knew she couldn't beat Arie. It would upset her and no one wanted to do that. Who, me? I asked in faux confusion. I'm simply giving my little sister a chance to play, I grinned. I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket. Taking it out, I checked and saw it was a message from Tsukachi. Kami, could you hold Arie? I need to take this. I put Arie on Kami's lap who nodded. I went outside and looked at the text. Illuminati, Detective, Kurogiri has been spotted in Minetsu Woods. Mighty man. Why is this my name and what's with the chat name? Dekiru. Your mighty all might, and the name is a reference. Nezu changed his name to Rat Overlord Rat Overlord. I believe the name refers to the fact that we are in the know of Midoriya's true identity and the dangers that lurk in the shadows. Dekiru. Right in one. Old Torino. I'm gonna give you an ass whooping the next time I see you. Dekiru. So, Kurogiri was sighted. Has there been any reports on seismic activity, or reports of a large beast in the same area? Detective. I'll look into it. Mighty man. You've been watching too many crime films haven't you, young Midoriya? Dekiru. In my past life, they're very entertaining even though they aren't realistic. Old Torino. I agree, CSI is a masterpiece. Dekiru. They still have that? Old Torino. The longest one is season 45, lost its touch after 20. Rat Overlord. Back to the matter at hand. Once Gigantomachia is found, we must act quickly. Dekiru. I agree, we could use some heroes to back us up. He's very powerful, able to take on Mount Lady to a stalemate. Detective. I could probably get her and Kamui Woods to join in this operation. Rat Overlord. Might I suggest Ryukyu as well? Her dragon form will be a great support as well as Mount Lady's enlarged form. Mighty man, and the WWP, I think that their quirks will help in locating and communicating. Dekiru. This can work, we will also need to restrain the beast so Kamui will be a big help. Rat Overlord. So happy to see a plan coming together, do not worry, I will permit you to attend the operation once the location is revealed. Dekiru. Thank you for trusting me. Old Torino. Do I need to be there too? Rat Overlord. Yes Dekiru. Yes Rat Overlord. In any case. Midoriya. I believe that your friends are looking for you. Go have fun. I raised an eyebrow, was that an order or? The door to the dorms opened with Ochako looking at me. Deku, come on. Arie's beating everyone. She giggled as she went back inside. I smiled softly as I made my way back inside. I felt so lucky. Darkness, that's all I saw. This wasn't the Visage world. Soon, light filled my vision as I found myself in a small camp. Percy, I turned and saw a blonde girl walking towards a black-haired boy. The boy had a bronze sword in his hand and metal bracers on his arms. We need to move, those Cyclops will find us soon, the blonde told him. Where's Tyson? Percy asked. Haven't seen him, the blonde frowned. Annabeth, Percy sighed. He was about to respond but we locked eyes. Do you see that? Then darkness. I couldn't feel anything, just cold light filled my vision for a moment before my eyes adjusted. I was now in a hallway. Where am I? Young, you gotta study more. I turned and saw 4 girls walking towards me. Rubes, I'm fine. The blonde bombshell waved her arm. No, she's right. We need to excel in Professor Port's classes, the white-haired girl chided. As if you can hear anything noteworthy in his stories. The dark-haired girl with a bow on her head commented. I mean it's so small that. The girl with black hair with red tips stopped as she saw me, her silver eyes widened. What? Crack. I woke up with a massive headache as I shot up from my bed. I was in my room in the UA dorms. I was fine. What was that? How could they see me? Why did I see that? Why, were they familiar? Henry, Selena. I muttered as I looked at my palm. What the hell? Percy? Annabeth ran over and pulled him up. What happened? She asked. Percy rubbed his forehead as he looked at the spot where the astral figure was a moment ago. I don't know, we need to leave. He turned Riptide back into its pen form and put it in his pocket as he picked up his backpack. We need to find Tyson. Percy looked at the spot once more. What the hell was that? Ruby. Young knelt next to Ruby who held her head in pain. I'm fine, just a random headache. Ruby waved her sister off as she looked at the spot where she saw the figure. Should we take you to the nurse? Weiss asked, concerned. No, I'm fine. She muttered as she rubbed her arm. What was that? In an underground base somewhere, a scientist was backed against the wall. Sir, we need more time. A scientist yelped as he dodged a thrown keyboard. I've waited 10 years. Null growled as he looked at the portal prototype. I want you to get me results or else I'll find someone else to get them. He screamed as the scientist who cowered at his heated glare. Rubbing his forehead to soothe the headache, he took a deep breath and muttered. A little more time, Gia. I'll be back to you. He glared at the prototype as he scratched his head. The blueprints being kept away from him was only a setback. He won't stop, not until he's returned. Nothing will stop him. Chapter endnotes. Okay. I know I have some explaining to do but I've been having a hard time right now. Good news, the next chapter of Champion of Olympus is 75% complete. Watching Infamous though, that's taking longer. I have had rough patches and now I'm too tired to explain. I am rewriting the first few chapters of this story so look out for that. Also, yes, I am making the universe bigger, deal with it. Chapter 31 Chapter Summary Date and first day of school for our favorite unicorn. Chapter notes this just poured out. How is it so easy to write this? Anyway, I know it's short but I'm already working on the next chapter and wanted to have this out. See the end of the chapter for more notes. I put my jacket on as I looked at myself in the mirror. Today I was taking Uraraka on a date. Thankfully we had 3 days off until class started. We were keeping it quiet so no one would try to spy on us. We both agreed that Uraraka would leave first then I would sneak out. Mina, Toru and Kami would have a field day if they knew, so he kept it on the down low. My phone rang, signaling a received text message. I grabbed my phone and read the message. It was Uraraka, she was outside. Opening the balcony door, I jumped down and landed on the grass, crouching. I saw Uraraka walking to the entrance of UA. I ran over to meet up with her. Uraraka, I called out and she turned to see me. She smiled as she wore a casual outfit, a pink shirt with blue shorts. Deku, you ready to go? She asked me as I rushed over to her. Yeah, come on. We exited UA without any of our classmates knowing, or so we thought. You sure it was okay to just lie to them? She asked me. Would you have the 3 gossipers hounding you? I asked, referring to Mina, Toru and Kami. Fair point. Ochako muttered as we made it to the train station and rode to the next city over. Keep quiet. Mina hissed as she, Toru, Kami, Jiro and Momo were wearing disguises as they were watching as Uraraka and Midoriya walked down the street from the edge of a building. Why am I even here? Jiro grumbled as she scratched the wig she was forced to wear. Because you have super hearing. Kami whispered as the couple were looking at stuff in a stand. And why are you here, Yao Momo? Jiro asked the Yayorozu heiress. Momo blushed. I was curious, she muttered, embarrassed and a bit jealous. Mina grinned wider as Midoriya got Uraraka a pair of star earrings. Uraraka was trying to refuse but Midoriya seemed to insist as he already paid for it. Why are we even watching them? Jiro asked as they sneaked around to follow the two. Don't tell me you're not at least curious about seeing 2 cinnamon rolls get together. Toru hissed as she turned invisible and leaned out more to get a better view. Jiro sighed. There's no way they can't see us, she muttered. They look too distracted to notice anything. Mina waved off, sure of what she said. Are they still following us? Ochako whispered to me as she put on the earrings I just got her. Yup. I chewed on my lip as we made our way to get something to eat. How did they even know? She wondered as she tapped her cheek. She thought she was careful. Toru, I guessed with a shrug. She probably saw us walking out together. Maybe. Let's just go get some food. Ochako sighed tiredly. Looking around, I then grinned as I pulled her with me. Come on, let's lose them. I whispered as we walked into a crowded area and ducked into an alley. I used Black Whip to grapple us to the top of the building. Deku, Ochako held onto me tight as I pulled us up. I leaned down and saw the girls frantically searching for us. Wow, Momo is with them as well? Ochako tilted her head in confusion as she saw our friends. Strange, come on. I nudged her as we walked to the other side of the roof and Ochako floated us down safely without anyone noticing. Thanks, now what are you in the mood for? I asked as we walked out of the alley onto a not-so-busy street. She looked around and I knew that she was trying to find something cheap so she could help pay the bill. You know I'm treating you right, I reminded her. But you don't have to, she muttered. I want to, besides, I have more than enough to get us something nice. I assured her as I spotted the noodle shop. What about here? I pointed, she stared inside and licked her lips. I took that as a yes as I took her inside. I relished in the nice cold air as we got a corner booth and a waiter gave us our menus. Whoa, this looks so good. Ochako drooled. Yeah, I agreed, I had to admit, watching Naruto made me love ramen and noodles in general. I'll get the udon, she hummed as she looked down. With some sweet tea, she told me. I'll get some beef ramen with some sushi on the side. I responded, I noticed mochi in the dessert section. Want mochi? I asked with a small grin. I saw her freeze and try to stare at the menu. And no. I chuckled. Don't worry, the mochi will be fine, I assured her. The waiter came back and we gave our orders. I added the mochi to the order. As the waiter left, I looked at Ochako. Well, we have our license. I started. One step closer to our goals, I grinned. Yeah, I wonder what we'll be doing once classes start again. Ochako gave me a bright smile in excitement. Maybe we'll be doing some hero work like our internships, I hummed. Oh, I could go back to Gunhead. Ochako smiled even brighter at the thought. I couldn't look at her directly as I looked away and muttered. Too bright, why was this girl so bright? It should be illegal. Just then, the waiter came with some spring rolls and placed them in front of Ochako. I blinked as I noticed him giving her a kind smile. Oh, I didn't order this. Ochako looked nervous as she pointed at the spring rolls. On the house. The waiter smiled as he left. The feeling of jealousy bubbled inside me but I forced a smile. Oh thanks, my date and I will enjoy this, I said in a forced cheerful tone as Ochako realized what was going on. The waiter blinked as he recognized me and gulped. Sorry I'll get your orders. The waiter scurried away. The feeling subsided when I felt a foot nudge mine. I looked at Ochako who was giving me a small smirk. What? I asked, confused. Deku, are you jealous? She teased. And no, I denied as I looked away embarrassed. I hated to admit it, I was jealous. Ah, don't worry, it's just us, she laughed. I pouted as a different waiter came with our food. I ate with my chopsticks as Ochako was drinking her sweet tea. This is delicious. She munched on the free spring roll. I should thank that kind boy. She smirks at me. I huffed slightly. Since when could she tease? We exited the restaurant after paying the bill. Ochako looked happy. Aw, I'm so full, she looked content. I laughed. Me too. I was about to put my wallet in my pocket when someone bumped into me. And just rushed off, blinking. I looked at Ochako who was just as shocked. Was I just robbed? I asked, still trying to register what happened. Ochako nodded as we turned to see the robber who was running, pretty slow. Well, this is a good time to use this. I took something out of my jacket pocket, 2 gloves which were copies like my Air Force gloves. Melissa and May were miracle workers. I put them on and grinned. I'll be right back, as I dashed towards the robber. I reached the robber and used Blab Whip to catch and restrain him. You know, it's stupid to rob a hero student who just got his provisional license. I smirked as I took my wallet back. Deku. The robber recognized me and was pale. Stop, I blinked as I turned and saw a hero who wore white and had a green cape. He was breathing heavily as he looked at me. You aren't permitted to use your quirk, he told me. I simply stared at him as I took out my provisional license. This man just tried to rob me and I took action. That's obviously fake. He finally caught his breath as he stood straighter. He looked like an arrogant guy. Fake. I raised an eyebrow until another hero in gray and was wearing a domino mask who looked older walked up to us. Chain, what are you doing? He demanded as he walked up next to the other hero. Oh Spiker Chain looked nervous as the Spiker looked at me. Ah Dekiru, it's good to meet you. Spiker grinned. I finally recognized him, Spiker, a hero who shot spikes from his palms and was a hero for a few years. Thank you hero knowledge. Oh Spiker. I pulled the robber and presented him to the hero. Sorry, this guy tried to rob me and I didn't really want to lose my wallet. Spiker laughed. Huh, I know that feeling. Chain looked at Spiker in shock. He used his quirk without a license, he shouts. Ah thanks sidekick, he rolled his eyes. Do you have a license? Spiker asked. I showed my provisional license. Ah it's legit, you're free to go. Sorry for the inconvenience Dekiru. Tell Eraserhead I said hi. I blinked as I nodded and walked off as the sidekick looked at me in shock. That was fake. You can't fake a license and I doubt All Might's successor would do something like that. I made my way back to Ochako, who saw the whole thing and was giggling. That was so funny to watch. I chuckled. Yeah and better to put that guy in his place. I grinned as we made our way back to Ua. We entered the dorm and I saw the girls sitting on the couches. They saw us and I gave a small wave. Hi. I looked at Ochako. Talk later. Ochako looked at the girls and at me. Please take me with you. She pleaded. Sorry, I quickly walked as she was taken by Mina and Kami to be grilled. I walked to the elevator and ran into Mr. Aizawa. You used your quirk. He raised an eyebrow as he had his arms crossed. Yeah, I looked nervous. Don't worry Spike told me what happened. Good work. You responded quickly and efficiently. Just wanted to be sure he was telling the truth. That man tells so many tall tales. He walked away. I blinked as I hummed and got into the elevator. The day after, I was eating breakfast with the rest of my class when I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket. I took it out and looked at it. I frowned. Oh geez. I gotta go. I got up and made my way to the door. What? Why? Momo asked while frowning. My mom texted me. Arie's locked in her room. She doesn't want to go to her first day of elementary school. I responded as I left the dorms. Her school was supposed to start today. Everyone looked at each other, then started to eat quickly and dashed to get change. I walked to the faculty dorm fixing my shirt. I was thankful for Nezu who was able to get Arie into a good elementary school in such a short notice. I sprinted up the steps of the faculty dorm and saw Aizawa open the door. Where? I asked without even bothering with a formal greeting. Second floor. She's still not coming out. I nodded at my teacher and ran up the stairs and found my mom knocking on the door of Arie's room. Inko noticed me as I approached. Oh Izuku, you're here. I can't get her to come out. She looked worried. I got her in her uniform and then as we were about to leave the room, she ran back inside. Probably got nervous. Let me talk to her. Inko nodded and stepped back. I walked up to the door and knocked softly. Arie? I called. No response. It's me, Izuku. Can you let me in? I asked. After a while, there was a soft click. I looked at my mom and nodded at her. I stepped into the room. I looked around. I saw a lump on the bed under the blanket. Closing the door behind me, I walked over and sat on the bed. Hey there. I greeted with a small smile. Are you gonna come out? I asked. No. Arie responded softly. Why not? I asked as I put a hand on the top of the blanket. I don't want to go to school. I sighed. Arie, it's just like when you're studying with Nezu, but this time, the teacher is gonna be focused on other kids your age. Why can't I learn from Nezu? She asked softly. Because Nezu is a busy rat. I said after a moment of contemplating on what to call the principal. I don't want to go. Arie repeated. Arie, you need to. School is a place where you can learn and make friends. I slowly pulled the blanket off to see my little sister in tears as she was wearing her elementary school uniform. There she is. I smiled as I poked her nose making her scrunch it up. But I want to stay here. Arie looked down and sniffed. I know, you'll come back after your school is finished. I pulled her into my arms and felt her cling to me. You can make more friends your age and if anything happens I'll teach them not to mess with a Midoriya. I stroked her silvery hair. Arie giggled and nuzzled her face into my shirt. I smiled. Come on, you don't want to be late. I got up and she grabbed my hand. We walked out of her room and smiled at my mom who sighed in relief. Sorry. Arie looked down guiltily. It's okay to be shy, Arie. Inko assured her as we went downstairs. Aizawa, who was standing by the door, looked at Arie and his eyes softened. You okay now, kiddo? He asked her. Arie nodded. Good, there's a car waiting outside to take her and your mom. He told me. Who's taking them? I asked with a raised eyebrow. Mike volunteered. Don't worry so much, problem child. I nodded slowly as we left the building. I blinked as all of Class 1A was standing outside. Even Bakugo was there. Hey guys, what are you doing? I asked them. You seriously thought we wouldn't be here to see our favorite unicorn off to her first day of school? Mina grinned as Toru agreed. Yeah. It was amazing to see a visible Toru no matter how many times I see her. I grinned and looked at Arie. Before she had nothing, stuck in a horrible place, now she had this family. She looks so cute, Ochako cooed with a cutesy face. I pulled Arie down the steps as mom watched with a smile. Please do your best, remember, listen to your teacher. Iida gave his advice with his normal arm chops. But also have fun. Toru waved her arms around, her habit of using physical movements to show her expression. Make lots of friends. Mina gave a thumbs up. I know this is rushed but here in case you get hungry. Sato handed Arie a paper bag with what I could have guessed had sweets. If someone tries to pick on you, remember to punch them right in the face. Bakugo smirked. Bakugo, Iida scolded the explosive teen. Don't listen to him. If someone does pick on you, go to the teacher. Momo knelt in front of Arie and made a hairpin with the symbol I spray painted behind the dorm building and placed it on her hair with a kind smile on her face. What's the name of the school she's going to? Shoto asked me. I think it was called Sakahana Elementary. I mumbled as I scratched my head. Shoto blinked. That's the same school my sister works at. I could let her know about Arie beforehand. He stated. Oh that's good, I would appreciate that. I smiled. I looked at Arie who started to tear up as she was in the center of attention. Arie, the class looked panicked as Arie was sniffing. Was it too much? Iida, you came too strong. Be quiet, you're scaring her. Thank you all. Arie smiled as she felt so loved by everyone. Mina blinked before she teared up also and hugged Arie tightly. Why are you so cute? She cried as Toru joined, tearing up as well. It's not fair, she sobbed. We had to pry the two away from Arie as mom took her to the gate. Before Arie got in the car I called out. Arie, remember, be brave alright? Arie looked at me and nodded as she got in the car. The class was waving as the car left through the gate. I felt so proud of her, she was growing up slowly. I turned to follow my classmates as we made our way to our dorms. I heard my phone ring from my pocket. Taking it out of my pocket, I saw it was Sukachi. Picking it up, I placed it against my ear. Yeah. We found Kurogiri, we found Makia also, seismic activity is through the roof in the area. Sukachi explained. I blinked as I turned away. When are we moving? I asked. As soon as possible, hopefully in a few hours. I nodded. Nezu? Gave the green light. He responded. I'll get ready. I walked back into the dorm room as I put my phone in my pocket. Game time. Arie was nervously shaking, her grip on her small book bag tightening. Inko held her other hand as they walked through the hall of the new school she was going to attend. Don't worry Arie, you'll be okay. Now according to the guard the room should be… Oh? Inko blinked as a woman with a mix of white and red hair was standing in front of a door. The woman spotted Inko and Arie. Oh, you must be Izuku Midoriya. I'm Fuyumi Todoroki. I was told I was going to be getting a new student. She smiled kindly and looked at Arie. And this must be Arie.
Ah yes, wait, Todoroki, are you related to Shoto Todoroki? Inko asked. Yes, he's my younger brother. Inko smiled brighter. Oh that's grand, my son is his friend. I know, he let me know about Arie earlier, don't worry I'll take care of her. Fuyumi promised.
Thank you so much, Arie. Arie looked up at Inko. Be nice and behave. Arie whimpered and held Inko's hand tighter. Arie, remember what Izuku said? Inko kneels to Arie's level. This reminded her of when Izuku attended his first day of school. Be brave. Arie took a deep breath and put on a brave face. Fuyumi wanted to go but simply smiled wider. If anything happens, Inko started but Fuyumi cut her off. I'll tell Shoto. We'll tell your son and he'll tell you. Inko nodded, then thought if Arie were to be bullied. She could hear the screams of those poor kids. Here's my number, please text it first before anything. Inko hastily wrote down her number on a piece of paper and handed it to Fuyumi who took it with a nod of understanding. I had to go now, Arie. Inko kissed the girl's forehead and left. Let's introduce you to everyone. Arie looked up at Fuyumi and nodded as Fuyumi guided her inside. Arie walked to the front of the room and froze as there were so many eyes on her. Unlike Class A, these were other kids her age. We have someone new joining us today. Fuyumi announced as she looked at Arie. Go on, introduce yourself. Arie gulped and remembered the words of her big brother, be brave. Gathering the courage she spoke. And my name is Arie Midoriya. It's nice to meet you all. She gave a small bow. Fuyumi smiles. Great, Arie you can sit, there's an empty seat right there. The woman pointed to the empty seat next to a boy with short blonde hair and brown eyes. Arie slowly made her way to the seat and sat down. The others stopped staring so she felt a bit better. Looking to her right, the boy looked down shyly. Make friends. I'm Arie, she introduced herself softly. The boy looked at her. Kei Katsuma Shimano. The boy introduced himself shyly. It's nice to meet you. She gave a smile. I hope we can be friends. Okay, class let's get started. Fuyumi smiled at her students. In a dark room in an unknown location, a boy with green hair and freckles on his cheeks was chained up on the floor face first. It was so dark. The door to the room opened, illuminating the room. A guard in futuristic armor walked in. Hello 3316, how are you on this fine day? The boy asked as he attempted to move his head but his neck was also chained. Is it day? There isn't a clock here so it's so hard to tell the time. He continued in a cheery tone. The guard took out a syringe as he injected the substance into his collar. Ow. At least feed me, having these shots is so painful for me, the boy muttered. The door opened once again, a man in a black lab coat with the words OAO on the left breast. Is that you doctor? The boy asked. I would stand but I can't. The scientist simply moved his arm as the boy was lifted off the ground, the chains extending. Black eyes met blood red. Ah, much better. The boy smiled wide. Let me guess, trying to strip me of what I took fair and square. The scientist simply placed a device on the boy's chest as it glowed red. The boy grunted as his body was covered in red and black lightning. The device short-circuited and fell off. Damn. The scientist cursed as he took the device and glared at the boy. Failure again. He gave a wide grin. Well that's a shame. Say how's dear Ethan doing or should I say Izuku? He asked with a head tilt. Still doing your little experiment. The scientist didn't say a word and walked out as the guard followed. The boy was slammed back onto the floor. The door closed, engulfing him in darkness. Soon. I'll find you. His red eyes glowed with malice and hatred. And I'll make you suffer for what you did to me. I was walking to the car that was going to take me to the site where Kurogiri was spotted but stopped and rubbed my cheek as I felt something off. Why did I feel like something was missing? I shook my head and got into the car. I had more important things to worry about. Chapter end notes. Who was that guy? Won't tell, but you won't see him for a long while. Smiley face. Katsuma? What's he doing here? Things are changing more than anyone realized? Next will be a huge takedown. Take care. EEGEPHS hash fair 2-5 Tiki, YG. GSERSRGOYG. Chapter 32 Chapter Summary Battle with the Titan. Chapter notes. Okay. I feel like I need to explain why the other stories haven't been updated as frequently. One of the issues is inspiration and the drive to write it out. I want to but nothing is coming out. I'll do my best to finish MHA Watch's infamous RWBY and Champion. But for now, please enjoy this next chapter. See the end of the chapter for more notes. I was sitting in the back of Tsukachi's car as Gran Torino was sitting in the passenger seat and Tsukachi was driving. We made a small pit stop for me to change into my hero costume before arriving at the site. I got out of the car and saw some policemen waiting along with a few heroes. I recognized all of them. The Wild Pussycats, Yukio the current number 9 hero, Najire, Mount Lady and Kamui Woods. Kamui took notice of me first. What's he doing here? He asked, confused. Mount Lady turned to look at me. Izuku Midoriya, she was in front of me immediately. So I noticed you didn't give me a title. I felt my brow twitch. There isn't much of a title to give. I told her, making the older woman pout. Moving past her, I greeted the WWP. Hey guys, it's been a while. I gave them a grin. Tiger blinked at me. Midoriya, why are you here?
Tsukauchi walked up next to me and patted my shoulder. Dekiru is here because he has a skill set that we need for this operation. He explained to them.
Midoriya. I was immediately face to face with the periwinkle pixie known as Nijire. How are you? It's been so long. Did you forget about me? When were you planning on visiting? Why are you here? Nijire shoots her questions at a rapid pace. I blinked as I pushed her back. Sorry, I've been busy. I rubbed the back of my neck ashamed. Wait, what are you doing here? I looked at her confused. Oh, I'm doing my work study with Ryukyu. Don't worry, you'll learn about that soon. Nijire grinned widely at me. Oh alright. How's Murio and Tamaki? I asked her as I adjusted my gauntlet. They're great, we were happy about you being okay after Kamino, she responded. Mandalay looked at Tsukauchi. What exactly are we going to be doing? She asked the detective. We're here to capture a member of the League of Villains, the one known as Kurogiri. He showed a picture of the warp user. The warper? Tiger asked. That's right. Gran Torino walked up next to me. We were able to find him after we received reports of him being sighted near the area. The veteran explained. In other terms, with my quick tips to check the forest areas all over Japan, they were able to find him much quicker. That's why I requested you all to be in this operation. Tsukauchi explained. The pussycats are here because their quirks will be useful. It's the same as Kamui, Ryukyu and Mount Lady. Pixie Bob raised her hand. If we're going after Kurogiri, why not pick other heroes? The blonde asked. Torino sighed. There's been sightings of something large walking through these forests. We think that Kurogiri is looking for whatever's around here, he explained. And we have reports of something big wandering around and we don't want to be caught off guard, Tsukauchi continued. Kamui looked at me and Nijire. Should the kids be here for this? He asked. I could tell he was worried since we weren't professional heroes yet. I trust Nijire and she can help with her quirk, Ryukyu defended her student. And Dekiru isn't a snot-nosed brat, he was able to help take out the villain Muscular. Torino spoke up in my defense. I looked to Mandalay who gave me a thankful nod. Alright, we have a large cage ready for the beast when we come into contact. Tsukauchi points at the rather large box that I could only assume is the cage. You seem prepared for something like this. Ragdoll looked surprised. We're not taking any risks here. The detective turned to Torino and me. You two are the fastest, you'll be taking point and need to apprehend Kurogiri once you see him. Right. Gran nodded. Got it. I agreed as my mask snapped over my face. Mandalay, you and the other pussycats will be nearby in case things go south, same with Kamui and Mount Lady. Nijire, can you fly up and get a bird's eye view? Ryukyu asked her student who nodded and flew up into the sky. The pro looked at Tsukauchi. I'll be close by in case. Right. He turned to the other officers. You all have your earpieces? I caught an earpiece that. Gran Torino threw at me without looking. Alright. Let's move. I turned to look at Torino who was walking away. I rushed to catch up. Keep up rookie, he challenged with a smirk. I scoffed. I should say that old man. I smirked right back as I tapped into FA Gen and dashed forward with Torino following. I was hiding in the trees as Kurogiri calmly walked through the forest. I see him, I whispered softly into my earpiece. Hold, we have one chance at this, Tsukauchi said. Get ready with those whips boy. Gran Torino butted in. I rolled my eyes as I had Black Whip ready to latch onto its target. Now, I pounced as soon as the word was given and wrapped Black Whip around Kurogiri. Gran Torino sprung from his position and was crouching over the villain with his hand on the warper's head. Got you. I grinned as I tightened my grip on the warper. Nowhere to go. Gran Torino smirked as Nijire came floating down. Wow, that was easy, she said surprised. The warper grunted as he tried to move. Tell me something Midoriya. I narrowed my eyes as Kurogiri spoke. Have you heard of the beast of the forest? Suddenly, the ground started to shake, large footsteps. My mask recedes showing my face to the warper. I have, and let me ask you, how much force does it require to take down said beast? I mocked as trees were pushed aside, showing Gigantomachia. Okay, my comment sounded better in my head. Nijire gasped as she flew back. Gran Torino looked at the beast in surprise. You said he was big. I thought he would be bigger, the old man muttered. I let my mask snap over my face and knocked Kurogiri unconscious with a blow to the head. Gran Torino, get him out of here, now, I ordered as I put a finger on my ear. Ryukyu, Mount Lady, the beast is here, we need backup. Gigantomachia looked at the warper then at me, he sniffed the air. 1, 4, all, I froze in place. Either the all-for-one gave the beast a scent for him to recognize or he could sniff out certain quirks, or the doctor. Nijire, go with Torino. I leapt away and heard the crushing of more trees. I looked behind me to see the beast chasing after me. I grinned, just as I thought one for all is a priority target. No, get Kurogiri. My eyes widened as the radio around his neck gave the order. Machia turned and went after Torino. I tethered myself to a tree and flung myself towards the beast. Oh no you don't, I swung from tree to catch up. Then I felt someone grab my hand. I looked up to see Nijire. I told you to go with Gran Torino. Well, you're my Kahai, I'm not leaving you alone. Nijire flew faster as I sighed. Okay, just get me close to him. Just then Mount Lady grew larger and grabbed the beast. Ha, you're not so tough. I wanted to face palm as Machia started to grow larger. Idiot, I groaned as Yukio transformed into her dragon form and grabbed him from behind. Kamui used the surrounding trees in an attempt to restrain the large beast. Get me close to that radio. I pointed at the radio hanging around the beast's neck. Okay. Nijire flew close enough for me to grab the radio with the whips and yank it off. And I turned off the radio and held on as Nijire flew us back to the site where Kurogiri was being held. Here, I threw the radio to Tsukachi, who caught it with a surprised look. That's how Makia is getting his orders, I said as I let go of Nijire's hand and she landed next to me. Well, we can't trace it, sadly. The detective sighed as the ground rumbled. I looked back and saw the two heroines struggling against the beast. I'm going back in there. I looked at Nijire. Trust me? I asked her. She nodded. She looked so serious. Good, now go help Ryukyu. Nijire nodded and flew towards her mentor. I looked back to Gran Torino. Get that sedative ready. Yeah. Gran gumbled as I jumped into the forest and swinged towards the Battle of Titans. Hey, I screamed as I pulled myself into the sky and shot some air bullets at Gigantamakia. His attention shifted towards me. Get out of here, Ryukyu screamed at me. Sorry, not gonna happen. I argued as I pulled myself towards Gigantamakia with my whips. I winded my fist back and tapped into 40% of OFA. Detroit smash. I screamed as I slugged the beast on the cheek, creating a shockwave. His head snapped to the side, but he simply grew larger and roared in anger. Hold him, I called as I tethered myself away from a punch that would most likely end me if it made contact. Nijire, keep at it, Ryukyu encouraged her student who was firing spirals of energy at the beast. I landed on the ground and caught my breath. This was harder than I thought. Ragdoll. I put a finger on the earpiece. Can you pinpoint a weak point on this guy? I asked as I could feel the ground rumble and Makia sank a bit. No, I don't see anything. Pixie Bob was able to sink him. Mandalay has been trying to distract him, but he's not even phased. Ragdoll said through the comms. This guy is a pet for a lunatic. I don't think he has that much brain capacity. I sighed as I started to think of a plan. Looking at the battle, Mount Lady was wrestling with Makia from behind while Ryukyu was trying to push him away from the site where Kurogiri was. The wood kept breaking and was replaced by more wood from Kamui. If Mount Lady could open his mouth long enough for Gran to throw the sedative into his mouth, that could do the trick, but then we would need to wait for the sedative to take effect, which will take a while. Come on, big brain, I muttered as I paced on the spot. I stopped, then looked at the beast, then at my boots. It could work, I just hoped I wouldn't break my legs from it. Nijire flew around Makia, firing more spirals at him. I can't keep this up, she called. She could feel her vitality taking a toll. I got the thing, Gran called as he shot through the air. I needed to open his mouth. Right. Mount Lady gritted her teeth but tried to pry his mouth open. Hang on, I cried as I kicked it into overdrive and leapt into the air. Shooting Black Whip at Makia, I was able to get a hold and pulled myself towards him. Hey MACHIA, I shouted, now or never. Yo, Master's so fat. Those quirks go to his waistline, I taunted him. Makia stopped and looked at me. Mount Lady and Ryukyu looked at me in shock. Nijire covered her mouth trying to keep her laugh in. Gran barked out laughing as he flew through the sky. Rar, Makia roared in rage. The two heroines were pushed back from the shockwave. Gran immediately threw the sedative down his throat. Nice, I cheered as I shot a whip at Nijire, who caught it and pulled me away just in time as Makia swiped at me. Okay, we got the sedative, now what? Nijire asked as she flew faster. We wait for the drug to take effect. Tsukachi spoke through the earpiece. What? Mount Lady screamed. Look at him, that'll take forever. Keep your voice down, I shouted as I landed on Mount Lady's shoulder. I have a plan, but I needed to stay in a single spot long enough for it to work, I explained. We can give you 1 minute, but it won't be easy, Kamui said as he controlled the wood around him to restrain Makia once more. What's your plan? Ryukyu asked me. I smirked as I simply asked. Mount Lady, how's your throwing arm? Ryukyu roared and wrapped herself around Makia. The ground under them sank, Kamui restraining Makia with more wood. He was getting tired from overusing his quirk. Kid, if you have a plan, now's a good time to do it, Gran yelled as he flew past Match's head. Kid, are you sure about this? Mount Lady asked as she held me in the palm of her hand. Yes, now do it, I ordered as I braced myself. Mount Lady mustered all her strength and threw me into the sky with all her might. What the hell? Gran screamed at Mount Lady. What were you thinking? It was his idea. Mount Lady screeched back. I was so glad I had my mask and visor on. It helped as I was flying up. I think I was nearing the atmosphere. As I was slowing down, I tensed my leg, getting ready to fall back to earth. Looking down, I could see a city in the distance. Wow, I was so high up, no time for that. I positioned myself as I spoke. Lunar, drop, I kicked upwards just as I stopped descending and was about to fall. The kick sent me rocketing back down. After I spun in the air so that I was gonna land feet first and straightened my body. I willed Black Whip to wrap around my whole body as a protective shell. I pushed OFA to 100% and prepared to use whatever kinetic energy I had left in FA Jin. This won't kill Makia, but it'll be enough to knock him out. Nijire hovered nearby the battle and heard a loud boom. Just then there was a bright flash as lightning struck the top of the beast's head. The impact caused a huge shockwave sending everyone back. Tsukachi and the other policemen felt the shockwave from their position. The detective coughed as he waved the dirt away. Damn, that kid's gonna be the death of me, he muttered, making everyone look at him. That was the kid? I coughed as I snakingly stood up. Not broken, no, it feels painful, push through it. I stumbled as I looked down. Gigantamakia was unconscious under me. Ha, eat your heart out, Delson. I laughed as I sat down. Dekiru, are you okay? Mandalay spoke through her telepathy.
Yeah, I'm fine. I spoke into comms. We need help carrying this big guy into that cage. I groaned.
In pain as I looked down, he was shrinking. Danger sense flared up. I simply laid down and rolled out of the way as Gran Torino slammed into the spot next to me with an angry expression on his face. Are you out of your mind? He screamed at me. You're worse than Toshinori? I got the guy, you're welcome. I responded as I sat up again. What am I gonna do with you? Gran rubbed his temple trying to stop his headache. In a dark lab, a short man in a lab coat watched through a screen and got up. I really shouldn't use this, but I can't allow two of our best assets to be captured. The doctor walked to the far wall and placed his hand on a scanner. The wall opened up to a single cloning tube. In the capsule, there was a thin but buff Nomu. We were saving you for a special occasion, but I don't have much choice. He pressed the button on the console, sending electricity into the Nomu. The Nomu's eyes shot open, revealing glowing gray eyes. I sat under a tree as I watched the police chain Makia inside the cage. Nijire came over drinking an energy drink. This girl doesn't need an energy drink, but for her quirk, maybe it's needed. Long day, huh? She sat next to me. Yup, so work studies. Do you think you can recommend some of my friends to Ryukyu? I asked. Sure. Who? Nijire asked with a smile. Ochako Uraraka and Suyu Asui. I told her as I leaned my head back.
Oh, I know those two. Sure. Nijire offered me some of her energy drink, which I took and drained pretty quickly.
Nijire giggled. Wow, looks like you needed that more than me. Yeah, I chuckled. Sorry, don't worry, I got more in the car. Nijire got up and left to get another drink. I sighed. Makia was down, now I had to find Shigaraki, wherever he was. My head started to ring loudly, causing me to shut my eyes in pain. Damn, I grabbed my head and stood up. Izuku, do you feel that? Nana asked from my subconscious. Yeah, I answered. Strange, I don't feel anything, Yoichi hummed. Wait, so it's only Nana? I asked as I looked around. This wasn't danger sense. I limped my way to the heroes with my hand on my forehead. I was thankful for the vibranium boots. They helped with the blowback of my axe kick from heaven. Ragdoll, do you sense anything in the vicinity? I asked the green heroine. Ragdoll blinked and closed her eyes. Her eyes snapped open with a gasp. There's something coming, it's coming in fast. Pixie Bob groaned. Come on, she whined. Where? Sukachi demanded. I looked at Gran Torino, who nodded at me. I knew he came to the same conclusion. The doctor wasn't giving up Makia and Kurogiri easily. There, Ragdoll pointed at the sky. I saw something rocketing towards us. No, towards Kurogiri. If it got him, he could get Makia out. My mask snapped over my face once more. I pushed OFA to full cowling and used my good leg to push myself into the path of what was coming towards us. The air left my lungs as I was taken into the sky with the thing's hand around my throat. I heard my name being called out, but I was too focused on what was holding onto me. It was a Nomu. This one was dark blue but wasn't too bulky, openings on its shoulders for propulsion. Its eyes were yellow and gray pupils, but the weirdest thing, the smile stitched to its face. Downright unsettling. I choked as I clawed at its arm. The Nomu stopped and threw me as hard as it could, sending me flying. No, I need to get back, Nana. I called out. On it, Nana responded. As I fell, I could feel myself becoming weightless, just like when Ochako took away my gravity. I finally activated float, flipping myself to an upright position as I saw the Nomu making its way back to the camp. This wasn't Hood, I didn't know they had another Nomu. I grabbed my head as I felt a strong stinging pain in my brain. What the hell? No, not now, need to get my head in the game. I positioned my arms behind me and just like Bakugo, used my air bullets to propel myself towards it. Hey! I called out as I kept propelling myself forward. The Nomu didn't turn at my call, mindless, so it was receiving orders in some way. Once I got close enough, I shot my whips towards it and smirked as it wrapped around the Nomu's leg. Gotcha! I pulled myself towards it and got on its back. Not gonna get rid of me that easily, I wrapped my whips around it to help me stay on. The Nomu had other ideas as it rocketed towards the camp once again. I gritted my teeth as I activated the earpiece. Dekiru, are you okay? Sukachi shouted. I'm fine, I spoke as I tightened my grip. This thing is a Nomu and it's after our prisoners, get them out of here. We're not leaving you, Ryukyu denied. I can handle it, just go, I screamed as I dive-bombed towards the camp. I pulled hard, steering it off course and it pulled up to not crash. Not gonna happen. I looked to the side to see Nijire flying beside me. Stop trying to do things on your own, Dekiru, Nijire scowled. I stared at her before groaning. Fine, we need to ground this thing, I told her as I steered the Nomu away once again. Any ideas? This thing had no wings and the holes on its shoulders were shooting out wind so powerful I couldn't just cover them, and I doubt that those were helping this thing fly. I could give full power but I can't do that and keep up, Nijire said. I noticed that her forehead was shining. Sweat, was she using all of her power to just keep up? I held on tighter as it tried to bug me off its back. I'll try to aim it towards you so you can get a clear shot, I told her. Get ready. Nijire nodded and stopped her pursuit. The Nomu struggled more. Let's go for a ride. I pulled hard, making it turn around and fly towards Nijire, who was ready to unleash her quirk. The Nomu tried to steer away but I kept it from doing so. No you don't. The headache got worse and I nearly let go but tightened my grip. Izuku, I feel it too, Nana exclaimed. Nijire waved. I pulled up and the attack hit the Nomu right in the chest. It screeched as I landed a punch right in its brain. The screeching got louder and a loud ringing filled my ears. I could hear Nana's scream in pain as well. I let go and started to fall along with the Nomu. I tried my best to block out the ringing as I activated float and slowed my descent. The Nomu crashed into the forest. I slowly landed next to it and restrained it with black whip. My mask receded, letting me breathe easier. Nijire hovered next to me. Nomu has been grounded. Please send back up and something to restrain it. She spoke into her earpiece. The ringing faded as I took a closer look at the Nomu. It was so familiar. I then spotted something on the side of its head where the ear should have been. I got closer and saw that it was an earpiece. I took it out and put it against my ear. Get up, get up. I looked around. The doctor who made these monsters, I presume. I asked. The shouting stopped as I said it. Midoriya Izuku. Dr. Ujiko's voice was filled with malice as he said my name. Yup, now why don't you save us the trouble and tell us where Shigaraki is? I demanded. Even if I did know, I wouldn't tell you. The doctor scoffed as I sighed, of course. But aren't you curious about the Nomu you just defeated? Ujiko asked. It's quite special. She was made just for All Might, but from what my master tells me, it'll work on you just as effectively. I narrowed my eyes and stared at the Nomu as it laid there, breathing, waiting for a command from its creator. Now don't tell me you haven't felt it. My eyes widened. What? Ah, so you have felt it. You have your theories, don't you? Come now. Tell me who she is. Ujiko giggled in a demented way. Izuku, Nana whimpered from my mind. No, no, I whispered as I let go of the whips and stared at the Nomu as I finally realized who it was before it was turned into this monstrosity. Yes, you figured it out. Ha 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 ha. Ujiko cackled. Tell me, he demanded. Nana, I fell to my knees. I felt disgusted, hatred, towards the men who did this to Nana Shimura's body. How can you do this to her? I whispered. Well, my master wanted to hit All Might where it hurts to most, but this works just as well. Goodbye, Mr. Midoriya. The earpiece short-circuited in my hand, but I didn't care. I felt the tears well up in my eyes. How long, Dekiru? Nijire stepped forward with an unsure look on her face as she tried to reach out for me. I was enraged. All for One took Nana's body, twisted it, mutilated it, experimented on it. How long? Nana was sobbing as she saw through my eyes what that monster had done to her body. I could feel her disgust and the anger of all the other users. It boiled up into a scream of pure rage as I punched the ground, creating a crack as OFA seeped out. I breathed heavily as I sat down and stared at the Nomu. I felt a hand on my shoulder and I looked up to see Nijire giving me a sad look. Was she someone you knew? She asked. She didn't understand, it was more than that, but all I did was nod and look at the Nomu with heavy eyes. I'm so sorry, she whispered and kneeled down, giving me a hug. I didn't respond. Hearing the other users cursing All for One, Yoichi's disappointment was washing over me. The police and the other pro-heroes arrived and immediately restrained the Nomu. Don't hurt her, I begged. Tsukachi and Gran Torino looked at me. Nijire looked up. Who's Nana? She asked. Gran's eyes widened as he looked at the Nomu, then at me. I teared up and slowly nodded. It's her, I whispered. Gran fell to his knees and looked down, despair written on his face. I didn't blame him. Tsukachi looked shocked and let out a shaky breath. She was someone close to Izuku, Gran Torino and All Might. That's not her, Gran Torino denied. I took a deep breath and looked at Ragdoll. You can see her quirks, right? I asked. The heroine nodded. Can you see float in there? I asked her. Ragdoll slowly stared at the Nomu and searched. She closed her eyes and nodded in confirmation. Gran Torino got up and walked away. I'll be in the car, he said numbly. Can you have someone take us back to Ua? Nijire asked the detective. No, I need to. I was cut off as Nijire put her hand over my mouth. You are going back to Ua and get some rest. Nijire interjected as Ryukyu sighed. I'll do it, she said as Nijire got up, pulling me up with her. I'm not a baby. I grumbled as Nijire dragged me with her as she followed her mentor. Tsukachi looked at the Nomu and took out his phone. Nezu needed to know about this. After falling asleep while riding with Ryukyu and Nijire back to Ua, I found myself in the Vestige world. The users were on their thrones, save for 2, 3 and Nana. Nana was sitting on the floor next to her throne, staring blankly into the distance. Yoichi was the first to speak. I'm so sorry for my brother. The first user looked ashamed. I never thought he would stoop this low. It's not your fault. En spoke up. Who knows what he did to our bodies after he killed us? The sixth user crossed his arms looking at his successor. He already went after her family, Daigoro screamed as he slammed his fist on the arm of his throne. Now he used her. He stopped short as he stared at Nana. My corpse, Nana mumbled as she looked at the other users. He was gonna use it against Toshi. I'm sorry you had to go through that, kid. She looked at me. You don't need to be sorry. I told her as I clenched my fist. All for One is behind bars now. He won't hurt anyone. Is that what you believe? The second user asked. He's gonna take over that boy's body, and probably break himself out. The second user turned to face me. He needs to be put down. I agree, Hikage nodded. This has gone too far. We can't stoop to his level. Yoichi looked saddened. But we need to do something about Tenko. The third user sighed. We don't even know where he is. Yes we do, Jaku Hospital. Second looked at me. We just have to get a team and storm the place. We need to do it right. I rubbed my forehead. Right? Second scoffed. Listen, I know things aren't the same as my time, but we have the knowledge to make changes, but you won't act on them. He's been doing a lot already. Cut him some slack. Nana stood up, glaring at the second user. Well, he needs to do more, Second argued. Enough, I screamed as I pinched the bridge of my nose. I'm sorry if you think I'm not doing enough, but I'm still a UA student. I glared at the second. I have to do things carefully and not become a criminal by taking things into my own hands. Plus I'm not strong enough to take on those high-end nomus that the doctor has alone. I know you're angry. I looked at the users. I know that it seems dark, but we'll get through this. We'll stop Tenko, we just need to take cautious steps. The second user scoffs at my words and turns around.
Quote. He'll cool down. Yoichi sighed. Yeah, can't be like that forever. Daigoro rubbed his head.
Nana looked at me. You should go, I think you'll be at UA soon. I didn't want to leave, but I knew they needed time. I closed my eyes and woke up to my head on Nijire's lap as she stroked my green hair. Nijire saw my eyes open and she gave me a gentle smile. Hey, are you feeling better? She asked. I tried to sit up but she stopped me. Take it easy, we're almost there, Nijire assured me. We were in the back seat. Wada was laying on her lap with her hero costume on in. I turned red as I looked away. I'm okay, I told her. Can I sit up? I asked. Not until we get to UA. Your hair is too fluffy. Nijire giggled as she kept playing with my hair. Why, we're here, Ryukyu said from the driver's seat as we stopped. I got up and got out of the car. I looked around to see the main campus of UA. I limped to the back of the car and opened the trunk, taking out my suitcase. Sleeping in my hero costume wasn't comfortable. Nijire walked up beside me and got her suitcase. If you need anything, don't be afraid to ask, okay? Nijire smiled at me. This was the first time I've ever seen this side of her. Yeah, I nodded. Thank you. I turned to Ryukyu, who I bowed to, and thank you for taking us back. The dragon hero smiled. It's no problem, go rest up. I nodded and made my way to the dorm of Class 1A. I was limping slowly, but it felt like moments as I made it to the door of the building. Opening the door and stepping into the building, everyone of Class 1A stopped to look at me. Oh, Aizawa is here too. Midoriya, where have you been? Iida demanded as he marched towards me. You vanished right after Arie left. I just brushed past him and limped to the elevator. Iida looked shocked as he was ignored. Aizawa stopped me by putting a hand on my shoulder. Midoriya. He stopped when I looked at him. He saw the look in my eyes and slowly let go. I nodded in thanks and entered the elevator and went up to my room. Aizawa recognized that look, all too well. No one bother him, he needs space, he told the other students who looked worried. What happened? Kami asked with a frown on her face. I intend to find out. Aizawa left to go speak with Nezu. I flopped onto my bed after taking off my gloves and boots. This wasn't something I expected. Did this happen in canon? Will my knowledge become useless? I turned to face the ceiling as I let sleep take me. This time, I had no dreams. Chapter end notes Sue. That happened. Sorry to Nana. I hope you all enjoyed this chapter. Chapter 33 Chapter Summary Depression to Determination. Plans coming together. A dream coming to life. Chapter notes see the end of the chapter for notes. Do you know those days where you feel like you have no energy to do anything and just wish that you could lay in bed all day and not worry about the world? Well, that's exactly how I felt a day after I found out that the bastard all for one used Nana's body for his sick mind games. Opening my eyes, I could hear my alarm going off, but it felt off. I sat up and pressed the button to shut off the alarm. Stretching my arms, I got off the bed and grabbed my toiletries, exiting my room to head to the bathroom. Class A was worried for Izuku. During breakfast, he walked in looking down and sluggish, greeting everyone with a half-hearted good morning and ate some eggs and drank water. Ochako, who sat next to him, looked at Izuku worriedly. Deku? Izuku looked at her with a curious expression. We heard what happened, she explained. Aizawa got the explanation from Nezu and after pestering, told the rest of the class. To say that everyone was shocked that he fought a Nomu that was made from Nana's body was an understatement. Izuku frowned and looked down at his plate. I don't want to talk about it, he waved it off. Iida cleared his throat. If you need to talk about it, but Izuku got up and made his way to the elevator. Thanks for the food, Izuku mumbled as he went up to his room to get ready for class. He needs some space. Bakugo sighed. But we can't just leave him like that, Kirishima retorted. Well, he's not gonna talk to any of you anytime soon, Bakugo snapped. No, Bakugo is correct. Yaoyorozu agreed. Midoriya is in a hard place, but we can't force him to talk to us. As much as I want to, he needs to come to us. I was idly doodling on my notebook as I waited for Aizawa to arrive. Everyone was staring at me with worry in their eyes. They didn't need to worry. Aizawa walked in and his eyes zeroed in on me. I stared at him for a few moments before he sighed and started his class. But I wasn't paying attention. I needed to find a way to fully utilize the quirk float, since it can only keep me in midair. I needed a way to move with ease. I can pay Melissa a visit and ask her to add some thrusters into my costume to help me move in the air. Sure, Air Force helps, but I needed a way to maintain the speed. Midoriya. I looked up to see Aizawa looking at me. Are you paying attention? He asked. Not really, I replied honestly as I leaned back on my chair. Aizawa's look softened a bit as he sighed and continued with his lecture. After classes ended, I walked out. The Vestiges haven't spoken to me. I really don't know what to say to them either. Was this canon? What have I missed since I came here? I can't just go back to my old world and just look at the latest manga. I stopped when I realized I passed the support studio. Taking a few steps back, I opened the door and stepped inside. I spotted Powerloader with another support student. Hey, where's Melissa? I asked. The support teacher sighed and pointed at a new room. Nezu added that after the duo complained about not having enough space to do their work. Powerloader explained. Huh. I nodded as I walked to the heavily enforced door and knocked. "WHO is IT?" Hatsume screamed from behind the door. "Izuku Midoriya here to talk about some upgrades to my costume," I shouted. After a minute, the door opened and I was dragged inside. "Hello. Melissa is over there working on something. Can't talk babies to make." Hatsume ran to her side of the room as I walked to Melissa who was on the computer. "Melissa?" I got her attention. The blonde looked at me and frowned. "Hey, I heard what happened. Do you have anything to help me with flight?" I cut her off. Melissa blinked. "Oh, you mean with float?" She clarified. "I have a few prototypes but nothing solid at the moment." She sighed. "Sorry, it's okay, I just wanted to know if you— What is that?" I asked when I saw what she was working on. On the screen on her computer was what looked like a 3D model of an area. "Oh, Tony put that on that USB drive for me when I completed the arc reactor, but I can't figure out what it is." She adjusted her glasses. "Oh, so that was it. Wait." I looked over the map. It was the Stark Expo map. "Hey Mel, I need more space in my computer." May popped up. "Again? May, I gave you almost a terabyte of storage," Melissa groaned. "You need to delete some of the data." "But I need it," May whined. "Then transfer it into a USB. If you need it, just plug it back in and put the data back." Melissa rubbed her forehead. I blinked as I stood up. "What did you say?" I asked Melissa. What did you just say to Hatsume?" I demanded. Transfer it into a USB and plug it back in to put the data back when you need it," she told me. "What if the computer was corrupted?" I inquired. "What? Then you need to fix it and then put the data back," Melissa answered. "Thank you." I grinned widely as determination sparked within me. "Also, you're doing it all wrong." "What?" Melissa was confused as I pointed at her computer. "You need to remove all of the clutter and look at it like an atom." I used the mouse to turn it sideways. "Thank you again." I ran out of the lab with Melissa blinking. "You're welcome." She didn't even understand what was going on. She shook her head and looked at the model again. "What?" She typed in a few commands and removed the clutter. "Like an atom." "Oh, my." Melissa's eyes widened. "May." "What?" All Might looked at me like I was crazy. "We can bring Nana back," I told him. We were in Nezu's office. Sukachi, Gran Torino and Nezu looked at me skeptically. "Midoriya, what you're suggesting is impossible," the detective told me. "Hear me out." I pointed at Nezu's computer. "Let's say that is Nana's body. And it's been corrupted. Luckily, we have a copy of her." I poked my forehead. "We just need to put it back," I exclaimed. "But as you said, her body is corrupted. How are we to uncorrupt it, so to say?" Nezu asked me. "You want to use Arie's quirk," All Might realized. "Yes." I pointed at him. "She's been training and this can be a test for her. She can rewind Nana's body until it goes back to the way it originally was." "And what about Nana herself?" Gran spoke up while giving me a hard stare. I stayed silent and closed my eyes. "Nana, kid." I heard her speak from my mind. "I'm not sure. I came to terms with my death a long time ago. But you have a chance to come back and, honestly, I need help with Tenko and all for one if things get out of hand," I told her mentally. "I want to make him pay, but I also want to save my grandson, or at least show him that someone really wants to save him." Nana sighed. "I'm in." "She's on board." I spoke aloud as I opened my eyes and looked at Gran Torino. The old man groaned. "Fine," he gave in. "Sukachi, will you be able to get her body to a safe location for us to do this?" I asked the detective. "I'm not sure. I can pull some strings." Sukachi rubbed his forehead. "I'll do my best to help." All Might chimed in. I could see the hope in his eyes at the thought of having his master back. "Well, with that out of the way, I want to bring another topic to the table." Nezu put his paws together. "I have a contact in the HPSC who I trust. As of now he's currently in the lower levels, but given time I believe we can help him reach the top." We looked at the Chimera. "So when we expose the higher-ups, he takes over?" I asked. "That's what I was thinking, but we need to help him in small ways," Nezu explained. "Wow, this really is an Illuminati meeting, deciding the fate of Japan's hero society. I really hope this goes well." "Does he know of all the things that happened?" I asked the principal. "Not yet, but he does express a desire to help change things." Nezu smiled. "He's a bright young man." Gran huffed. "Green then?" "Quite." Nezu nodded. "Well, if we're really gonna do this, then we need to gather evidence." Sukachi crossed his arms. "Oh, I already have someone on it." Nezu laughed. I narrowed my eyes. "It's Neo, isn't it?" I asked the obvious question. "Ms. Neapolitan Beni has a wonderful job as an office worker in the HPSC," Nezu answered. "Huh. Wonder where the last name came from. Was Neapolitan her first name or just an alias? I'll ask later." "Well, at least she has a job." I sighed, Neo wearing a suit with stockings and, no. I slapped my cheek hard to get the image out of my head. Gran chuckled. "Get your head out of the gutter, kid," he said as if he knew what I was thinking. What about the MLA? I asked, trying to get the conversation back on track. "That's a bit trickier," Sukachi told me. "The Meta-Human Liberation Army has become a large group and getting moles in there is very difficult. From what you told us, they are able to monitor a person's every move. Yeah. It was almost impossible for Hawks to get the info necessary." "What do we know about the leaders?" I asked. Nezu typed a few things onto his computer and a projector pops out of his desk and projects pictures of the leaders of the MLA on the flat wall. Chitose Kazuki, aka Curious, Executive Director of Shueisha Publishing. Chitose's picture expanded. "She has a lot of sway in the news industry, we need to be careful, she can change the public's opinion with one of her stories." Sukachi explained with a sigh. "I really hate the news."
Her quirk is landmine. I cut in. She can turn anything, organic, inorganic and even living people into bombs.
All Might frowned. I don't even want to know how you know that. Best left unanswered, I shot back. Next is Koku Hanabata, aka Trumpet. His picture was shown next. Leader of the Hearts and Mind Party and a politician. One of Tsukachi's eyes twitched. A news publisher and a politician. Police's worst nightmare. I joked. His quirk is in sight. From what I know, he can enhance the people who follow him, and from my theory, it takes a toll on his body. I explained. But I have an idea on how to stop it. You have to show dominance and leadership to stop the people in their tracks. I remember when Shigaraki did that with a simple glance. Great, as if we have enough to deal with, Grand complained with a grumble. Tomoyasu Chikazoku, aka Skeptic. His picture was shown next. Board member of Feel Good Inc., very proficient hacker and second in command of the MLA. Tsukachi crossed his arms. I sighed. One of the most dangerous, his quirk is anthropomorph. He can turn any inanimate human-sized object and turn it into a lookalike of any given person. I explained as I shivered from the reminder of his fight with Twice. But what makes him dangerous isn't his quirk. It's his technical skills. He has information on the entire MLA on his laptop. And lastly, the Grand Commander, Rikiya Yatsubashi, aka Redestro, CEO of the Detonirot Company. The picture of the commander was shown last. His quirk is called Stress. As the name implies, he can store up stress and turn it into raw power. It can turn him into a hulking monster, and he's quite unstable. He's also devoted to Destro's goals and wishes to see them through. I explained and stared at the pictures of the leaders. All of them are willing to die for the MLA, and taking them one at a time will only cause issues, so we have to find a way to cut off all their heads at the same time. We need to be smart. Skeptic has the information on his laptop, you say? Nezu asked me. Yes, but getting it away from him long enough to copy data off it? I scoffed. Good luck. That man has it on him 24/7 and probably has a lot of security on it. A man like that needs to rely on information to fight his battles. All Might commented. We need to beat him at his own game. Nezu hummed. We could create a program to remotely copy the data from his devices undetected. The hard part is staying undetected. Tsukachi shook his head. Do not worry, I may have a solution to that. Nezu's smile in a way that I knew he had a plan. It's the smartest move. If he has all the information, we can use that. Gran Torino grinned as he got up. Oh, and Midoriya, I have found the two individuals you asked me to search for. Nezu told me and I perked up. Really? I asked. Yes, they're currently in Naruhata. I blinked at Nezu's words. Wasn't that where MHA vigilantes took place? Oh yeah. Just a question, does the name Crawler mean anything to you? I looked at the detective who blinked. Wait, how do you know that name? He asked. There was a spin-off series called Vigilantes and it featured Crawler, Popstep and Knuckle Duster. I explained. I don't know much, but I'm curious about what happened to them. Tsukachi sighed as he rubbed his forehead. I'm never gonna get over that. The Crawler has gone to the US to work under Captain Celebrity as a sidekick under a new name, Skycrawler, he told me. I blinked, now that I thought about it. Yeah, I remember seeing those videos about the vigilante turned sidekick. What about Popstep? I asked him. She hasn't been seen in a long time, but Ms. Kazuho Hanayama was a victim of the Queen Bee and she's already made a recovery. Where she is now I'm not sure. Tsukachi crossed his arms. I frowned. She and Koichi never got together? Seriously? As for Knuckle Duster, no one has seen him in a long time. Tsukachi finished. Wow, so, that's what happened to the vigilantes, thanks. I nodded to him as he nodded back and left. Gran already left without saying goodbye. All Might's phone began to ring. Thankfully it wasn't the A phone call is here, ringtone. Oh excuse me. He got up. I'll speak to you later, young Midoriya. He smiled as he left and checked the caller ID. I looked at Nezu. Do you think you can give me a pass so I can leave Uwa grounds for a bit? I asked. So we can finally do this, May asked excitedly. Yup, but I need to ask my dad to send some stuff from my island. Melissa said as she showed May what was on the computer screen. And I need to ask Principal Nezu about his making the device in one of the gyms. I can't wait, May cheered. Though, I can't help but wonder how Izuku knew what to do, Melissa hummed. Maybe you just needed a fresh pair of eyes. May stared at the screen with a wide grin. Maybe, Melissa sighed and then flinched when her stomach rumbled. Let's get some food first before we continue with anything else. May huffed but complied as she stomped out of their personal lab. Melissa was about to follow but stopped and walked over to a work table and stared at the pieces of armor laid out. Melissa grabbed the helmet and stared into its eyes and smiled with determination. Iron Valkyrie sounds about right. The blonde put the helmet down and walked out of the workshop. I walked into the dorm kitchen with 4 full bags of foods and ingredients that I got from the small market nearby. Cooking always helped in soothing my nerves and I had a lot on my mind, so why not cook for everyone here? Placing the bags down, I was thinking of what I would actually make. I remember all the time I watched Binging with Babish and I thought of the ribwidge, something simple, for those who want a different option. Fried green tomatoes. I don't have green tomatoes. Regular tomatoes will do. After I put the pans on the stove and turned on the heat, I got to work. A while later, Bakugo stomped into the common room and stopped seeing almost all of Class A peeking into the kitchen. The fuck are you doing? He asked. Pinky shushed him. Quiet, you'll spook him. Walking over he leaned over and saw Deku cooking. He never knew Deku could cook. Was it from his past life? Did you know he could cook? Pikachu asked. He was drooling at the smell.
No. Bakugo narrowed his eyes when Deku placed a plate full of sandwiches on the table. Next to the plate was what was that?
I then noticed my audience and blushed. Oh hi, I made dinner, I laughed nervously. Mina and Kaminari flew into the room and grabbed a sandwich to eat. I was waiting, Kaminari shouted as he took a bite and froze. Mina looked at her friend concerned. Kaminari? The blonde started to wolf down his sandwich and reached for another one, but I slapped his hand. One more only, leave some for the rest, I said sternly. Mina looked at her sandwich and took a bite. She moaned and smiled blissfully. So good. Everyone came and grabbed one. I handed Kota the fried tomato. Here. I winked. It's tomato. Kota smiled and gave me a nod. He took a bite and he hummed in content. Ochako moaned as she bit down on her sandwich. Deku, where did you get this idea? I laughed. That's a secret. I teased as I ate my sandwich and smiled at how good it was. You should cook more often if you make food this good, Kami moaned as she took another bite of her sandwich. Try the fried tomatoes, they're very good, Tokiyami suggested as he took a bite of one of the fried tomatoes. I smiled at my classmates. I was happy to see them enjoying my food. Big brother, I felt something small hit my leg and I looked down to see Arie hugging it. You're okay now. She looked up at me with her big red doe eyes. Smiling wider, I leaned down and picked her up. Yes I am. I'm sorry for not seeing you after your first day at school. Why don't you tell me about it? I asked while I poked her nose. Try this. Toru immediately handed some of her sandwich for Arie to try. She took a bite and smiled with stuffed cheeks. This was my family. If All For One tries to take them from me, he has another thing coming. Melissa was in her room late at night, on her desk asleep, her computer active as it was going through sequences. The computer beeping woke her up. Melissa blinked hard as she sat up and adjusted her glasses. Stop that alarm. Very well. Melissa froze as she heard the female voice coming from her computer. Taking off her glasses and rubbing her eyes, trying to wipe the sleep away, she put them back on and saw it. Athena, good evening Miss Shield, Athena responded. It worked, Melissa cheered. My own AI, oh man, I can't wait to tell May. Miss Shield if I may, I suggest you go into your bed and get some rest as it's currently 1:33 in the morning. Athena cut in. And from what I can tell you've been asleep on your desk since 10 in the evening. At least let me do some check-up on you before that. Melissa typed in some commands and pressed enter. Just need to make sure you don't go all evil on me. I will do my best to keep myself from enslaving humanity. Athena spoke in a somewhat joking tone. Since when did you gain a sense of humor? Melissa crossed her arms. Since you programmed it into me with my sense of sarcasm and my wit, Athena responded. Now I know how Tony feels, Melissa groaned. I'm gonna sleep, good night Athena. Good night Melissa. Chapter end notes shorter than normal. Yes, but I wanted to post this on Izuku's birthday. Well, it's gonna be the 15 in like 30 minutes or so for me so yeah. Also Melissa's hero name and her new AI, and I've been dealing with stuff and it's been affecting my writing so I hope you enjoy this chapter. If you're wondering about the other stories, I'll do my best to get those posted but it'll be difficult. I also read the comments. If you don't read it. Sorry I just wanted to say that. Chapter 34 Chapter Summary Brawl with Murio, talk with his master. Chapter notes okay. So hi everyone, I hope I haven't disappointed any of you. I know I've been gone for a while, I have actually been distracted by Genshin Impact and had serious writer's block, for the matter on the stories on. I will ignore it for now, as long as they mention that it's my story, I won't say anything, I am planning on posting it on there but I will have to rewrite some parts of the story to do some of that. Anyway, more news after this chapter so let's get started. See the end of the chapter for more notes. Tamura Shigaraki walked through the streets of whatever city he was in, he didn't really care. He wore a hoodie and kept his additional hands in his current hideout, an abandoned apartment complex just 3 blocks from here, maybe more. Kurogiri hasn't returned in nearly a week and a half, what the fuck was he supposed to do now? He lost his followers, his master, his resources, he was stuck in level 0. Come on scaredy cat, show us what you can do. Tamura stopped and looked down an alley seeing 3 boys wearing middle school uniform crowding over another boy who was wearing the same thing. The boy was trembling and hiding his face as one of the bullies kicked the trembling boy hard. He could have walked away but he hated the sight. Walking over, he called out, "Hey brats." The delinquents looked at Tamura as he approached. Who the hell are, but Tamura punched the kid in the face and grabbed him by the jacket and pulled him away. Mess with someone who knows how to fight. Tamura sneered as he clenched his fist. The delinquents looked at Tamura and decided it wasn't worth it and walked away. You okay kid? He asked as he turned to the trembling boy. I'm okay, the boy got up and dusted himself off. The hell did they want from you? Tamura asked as he crossed his arms. He didn't care, but he had nothing else to do so might as well. Nothing, I'm always their target. The boy sniffed as he wiped away the tears from his eyes. Why don't you fight back? Tamura asked him. Well, I don't really have a quirk to do that. The boy looked behind him, he had a cattail. Tamura blinked. Well I don't think you need a quirk to punch those bullies. But they're stronger, the boy frowned. Their quirks are combat related, I can't compete. Sounds like a lame excuse to me. Why don't our teachers do anything about this? Shigaraki asked. They're hero candidates. The boy replied as he picked up his discarded backpack. Teachers are trying to make sure they have clean records. Heroes, them? He asked in disbelief. Hey that's rich, aren't heroes supposed to save people? He scoffed. What a bunch of nonsense. The heroes claimed to save people and this is what the next generation was bringing. It made him sick. Thank you. Shigaraki looked at the boy who was bowing. No need for that, you got anything to eat? The boy shot up from his bow and took some sandwiches that looked like it came from one of those convenience stores. Here, thank you again. The boy rushed out, probably to head home. Looking at the sandwiches in his hands he felt pride. He saved a boy from hero candidates, just like his master saved him when no one would turn to him. What was a hero, and what is a villain, what are they in this society? Taking a bite of his procured food, he walked out of the alley, his mind working to answer his question. He was in the real world, as nobody, an observer. Well, if he was gonna succeed in his goals, why not get a new perspective? I was sitting at my desk waiting for Mr. Aizawa to come in. Today was gonna be the day we fought Murio. I wonder if things will be the same. Shuddering at the thought of me getting a blow to the stomach. Midori, I jumped and looked behind me at Kami. You okay? You seem a little tense, she asked with a concerned look. Kami was more attentive and serious than I thought when I got to know her more through my time at school. I'm fine, Kami. I smiled and turned back as Aizawa came in. The pro hero looked at me and I smiled at him, sighing. He just started with the homeroom. It was so nice to go back to classes. Hey, surprised that I think that. Before I didn't like school at all, but here I am, excited for homeroom. I was here. I was a hero student. I perked up when Aizawa called someone to come in. The door opened and the big three walked in, Murio Tagata, Nijire Hato and Tamaki Amajiki. I met Nijire's eyes and she gave me a huge smile. We'll have people who experienced it firsthand. Aizawa explained. Tell you how these work studies are different from internships. He narrowed his eyes. Listen carefully. The three students stood in front of the whole class. These three third years at UA stand at the top of all current UA students, also known as the Big Three. Aizawa looked at the three with Murio crossing his arms with a smile. Nijire smiling with her arms behind her back and Tamaki looking like he wanted to be anywhere else but there. Before anyone else could say anything, Nijire seemingly appeared in front of me and was in my face. Hey Dekiru. How are you doing? You were really down when I last saw you. Are you feeling better? She asked me with a concerned look. I blinked. Oh hi. Yeah, I'm better now, thank you so much for the support. I gave her a smile. Oh, this is the student you were talking about? Murio asked. The one on her secret mission? I couldn't help but stare at Nijire with a look of deadpan. It's a secret for a reason, I told her. Sorry, I didn't say anything else other than that. Nijire smiled sheepishly and walked back. Aizawa sighed. Let's just get started. Introduce yourself, Amajiki, you go first. Amajiki looked up and stared at us with an intense look. I didn't really feel intimidated. My classmates, sans Bakugo, were another story. Then Tamaki turned around and placed his head against the wall. Poor guy, I knew how bad anxiety was. Nijire smiled at Tamaki. Oh Amajiki, that's called having the heart of a flea. Even though you're human it's so strange. My sweat dropped at that. Anyway, this one is Tamaki Amajiki. Nijire mentioned to Amajiki then put a hand to her chest. And I'm Nijire Hato. She introduced herself. We were asked to talk about her work studies. I hummed as I watched Nijire ask my classmates questions about their quirks. I snorted at that and leaned on my hand. Hey, don't worry Eraserhead, I'll wrap it up. Murio tried to ease the hero who looked ready to murder anyone who crossed him. The future is gonna be. The blonde man put a hand on his ear waiting for a response but none chimed in. Grim, oh so that was it. Sorry my call and response was a huge fail. Ha ha ha, Murio laughed. This is who Night I wanted as the next OFA user. I see him as the next All Might but not the next OFA user. I felt a wave of agreement from OFA, even All Might's visage. Why don't you fight me all at once? Murio asked. Everyone looked shocked. I felt excited and kinda nervous. How would I fare against him now? It's the most rational to have you experience our experience firsthand, right? He asked Aizawa. Do what you want. Aizawa sighed. And that's how we were brought to one of the gyms in our gym uniforms. I had my gauntlets on after Aizawa gave me the go-ahead. If Murio thought it would be easy to fight me or my classmates, no, this man had a lot of experience and took us all down in canon. I shouldn't be cocky, isn't this a little unfair? Kaminari asked with a frown. Kaminari, I suggest you treat this like the time you got your asses beat by Gran Torino. I warned as I activated OFA and set it to 8% full Kowloon. Things moving slower than normal? Jiro's screech as Murio's clothes fell off snapped me out of my thoughts. Right. Oh, he had some underwear. That's a relief, they didn't fall off. Bakugo immediately took advantage and blasted towards Murio who was trying to get his pants back on. You're mine now. Bakugo had a ferocious grin as he blasted Murio, but when the smoke cleared, only his pants were left. The hell? Bakugo looked around but felt a fist dig into his stomach, almost making him lose his lunch. He underestimated Murio. Power. The third year exclaimed with a grin. Here we go. I jumped back as Murio went to town with the rest of my class. Bakugo was down, Koda, Shoji, Aoyama, Toru and Mina were taken down with a blow to the stomach. He's phasing through the floor. Ojiro called out, be on your guard. I hummed as I looked around. I leaned my head to the side as a fist sailed past my head. Thankfully danger sense helped in alerting me. Oh nice dodge. I smirked at his words and swiped but it expectedly passed through him as he sank once more into the floor. Try and dodge when he flies up again. I called and kept my guard up. Ojiro went down, Jiro down, Kaminari down. Shoto tried to fry him by blasting fire but was taken down by Murio who was too fast. Geez, they really underestimated him. Iida next, Momo went next, Kirishima took 2 blows before going down. Tokiyami went down and then Shiro and Kami. Ochako was starting to hover but he shot up and she received a punch to the gut. Su was next. Sato went down as he tried to hit Murio. Now it was just me and him. You know you could have helped, Murio said as he stood over my groaning classmates.
I hummed. I could have but then they wouldn't have learned a very important rule. I spoke my next words loudly. Not to underestimate your opponent. I got groans and a middle finger from Bakugo as a response.
Oh, so you don't? Murio asked with a smirk. Nope, I got into my fighting stance and grinned widely. Disappear. My body exploded with smoke as the whole room started to fill with it. Whoa, how did he do that? I thought his quirk was energy stockpile. Nijire asked Tamaki who looked surprised when he peeked. Aizawa sighed as he palmed his face. The problem child used the 6th S quirk, he better know how to use it. Mirio looked around as the whole room was covered in smoke. Oh nice, trying to obscure my vision. He sunk into the ground. I knew this wasn't gonna help but this was to throw him off. Below, I jumped up and dodged a fist from Mirio. I grinned as I landed. The smoke started to dissipate. Your control of smokescreen isn't good, you just used it. I heard N say in my head. Yeah, I noticed. Mirio was nowhere to be seen. I closed my eyes and focused more on danger sense. I could tell when danger was coming and where it was coming from. All I needed to do was react to it fast enough. Below, I grabbed it where the fist was supposed to land but danger sense went quiet. He went intangible when my hand was about to reach. He flew right through me and into the air. I summoned Black Whip and started to manipulate the whips and let them rampage through the air. The smoke was blown away and I could see Mirio putting his pants on and was looking at me with a challenging smile. If I let up, he would get an opening. He charged at me and then sinked through the floor. I soon realized that he could get a hit on me if he got close enough. Danger sense flared and I immediately jumped into the air just as a fist was about to land on my chin. I floated in the air with a small grin. Nice one, I compliment the senior student. Not bad yourself. Mirio returned the compliment with a wide grin as he looked up at me. Alright, that's enough. Aizawa spoke up. Midoriya, come down. I nodded and slowly floated down. He was able to survive, Tamaki muttered. Yeah, I told you, he's different from the rest, really strong and smart and funny too. Nijire poked Tamaki who shook as he had his head against the wall. Pretty good Kahai. Mirio offered me a fist bump which I returned. You could predict where I was going to attack. Something like that. I chuckled as my classmates got up holding their stomachs. Man, you wiped the floor with us. Kaminari whined, rubbing his sore stomach. Because you underestimated one person, a person who had more experience than all of us combined, I explained. Yeah, see he gets it, Mirio pointed at me with a grin. That's what you'll be getting in your work studies, experience on the field, putting everything you learned here in UA to the test, he explained. What is your quirk? It must be super strong, Shiro asked as he rubbed his stomach. Oh, can I tell them? Nijire asked Mirio. Hang on Nijire, first let me ask you this, what do you think my quirk is? Mirio asked the whole class. Obviously a phasing quirk, you just dropped into the ground and shot back up, Kami whined. I tuned out as I was thinking on ways to implement smokescreen into my movesets. Foresight is needed to fight blind, but also hearing and smell. I looked at Mirio as he explained his permeation, a quirk that was made strong by the user. He will be an amazing hero, just hope that he doesn't lose his quirk. We were dismissed afterwards and we made our way to the locker rooms. I saw that my classmates were demoralized after the whole beatdown. So what did you all learn? I asked as I walked further ahead of them. Always cover your stomach? Kaminari asked, rubbing his sore stomach. He means that we need to not underestimate our opponent. Momo looked a bit down but she had determination in her eyes to do better. Iida nodded. Correct, we assumed that with our run-in with villains that we would be skilled enough to beat other students easily, but that isn't the case. Well, Midoriya was able to go up against him, Shiro muttered. Because he watched the ghost fucker's every move and waited until the right moment to strike, Bakugo grumbled. Everyone, me included, stopped to look at him. What? Bakugo barked with his normal pissed-off face. Did you just compliment me? I asked in bewilderment. Bakugo pushed past me. Don't look into it, you damn nerd. I blinked and shook my head as we got into the locker rooms. As I was putting my uniform on, my phone pinged. I finished putting my tie on and took it into my hand. I received a message from All Might to meet him in our usual meeting spot. Gotta go guys, see you later. I walked out and made my way to the private room we always met in. What did he want? I made it and knocked on the door. Come in. All Might spoke through the door. Hey, what is it you need, too? I stopped as I saw Sir Night Eyes sitting on the couch, across All Might, giving me a calculating and judgmental look. Great, All Might, Sir Night Eye. I took my seat next to All Might, my eyes never leaving Night Eyes. When All Might called me here I thought it would be something important but no, if I had to guess, Night Eye doesn't approve of me and wants me to give OFA to Murio. So what's this about? I asked All Might, not breaking eye contact with Sir Night Eye. This is about the future of One for All. Night Eye answered, All Might sighed, Murio. No, I held my hand up, let him speak, I narrowed my eyes. I'll be blunt, you're not a suitable user and Murio should be given One for All. Night Eye outright said. You're egotistical, cocky, your whip quirk is more than enough to make you a hero. One for All should be given to someone who's willing to create a better society. What? I looked at All Might with a look of disbelief. What have you told him about me? I asked. He hasn't allowed me to speak about it, All Might sighed. Ah, so, You think I'm a cocky, egocentric All Might wannabe? I asked with a straight face. Night Eye stayed quiet, but I knew that's what he thought. Did you see my interview? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Yes, I have. I deduced that your light won't be bright enough to shine through the darkness. You're depending on others. What we need a dazzling light, not a dim one. Wow. I couldn't help but start laughing. Oh my. Wow, I laughed harder. Was this how I was presenting myself? Or was this how he saw me through his eyes? Night Eye glared at me. This isn't a joking manner, he scolded me. I know, but I can't help it. You know nothing about me. I kept laughing as All Might looked at Night Eye in disappointment. Let me explain some things to you. 1. I'm not cocky. I'm confident in my abilities. There's a difference. I held up a finger. I held up 2 fingers. 2. I'm not egocentric. I don't know where you got that. I'm pretty down to earth. And 3. I held up my 3rd finger. You're blind, Night Eye. Why do you think Murio is a better candidate for One for All? I asked. He's been training his body for years. He has an amazing quirk. He's bright and his smile brings comfort to others. Night Eye crossed his arms. I nodded. So, you want another All Might? I asked as the hero raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? No, I get it. When I met Murio, he reminded me of All Might in certain ways. He's always smiling, strong, blonde, blue eyes. I list off the similarities I noticed when meeting him. All Might's eyes widened as he realized the same thing. So, you want him to be the next All Might?
That has nothing to do with it. Night Eye glared.
Does it? I asked innocently. Come on, face it, you're blinded from All Might's light. You don't want it to go out, so you're trying to find someone exactly like him to replace him. You don't want the perfect user. You want another All Might. I crossed my arms. Besides, Murio's a horrible candidate for One for All. You're wrong. Night Eye denied. This was similar to David's shield. He saw All Might's light up close and was blinded to the other heroes that were around. He didn't want the light to go out. But he wanted to make a device to boost One for All. Night Eye wanted someone just like All Might to take his place so it would be like nothing has changed. Oh, let's see, do you have any idea how One for All works? I asked. I know how Murio's quirk works and you would break all his bones if he tried to use it. It's the exact opposite when using permeation. I explained. And, One for All will kill Murio before he reaches his 30s. Night Eye stood up, his composed rage leaking out. You're simply arguing so you won't give up One for All. Am I? I looked at All Might. Tell him. All Might sighed. Mirai. A person with a quirk can't handle One for All. The strain kills them. Night Eye studied All Might's face for a moment before turning to me. Then what about him? He has a quirk. I laughed. I'm quirkless, I revealed. One for All merged with me to the point where I can use the quirks of the previous users. Night Eye looked floored by this. Then, and for your information, One for All wouldn't even leave me if I tried to give it away. I lifted up my arm and let OFA surge through it. The lightning wasn't blue, but rainbow, different colors sparkling around my hand. It chose me to be the 9th user. Night Eye stared at me and then sat down and pushed a paper towards me. Prove it, come to my agency and prove to me that you are a suitable wielder. I looked at the paper and then at him. I pushed it back. No, I don't need to prove anything to you. It was never your decision to begin with. I got up. If all you're gonna do is test me to see if I'm a good welder for One for All and not help me grow to become a better hero, we have nothing to talk about. I got up and made to leave. My hand snapped up, grabbing Night Eye's wrist as he was about to touch my shoulder. Murio, All Might got up, enraged by the fact that his former sidekick attempted to use his quirk on Midoriya. I gazed into his eyes, my eyes sparking with electricity. Touch me and I will break your hand. I warned him. Night Eye's eyes widened as he could briefly see the vestiges of the previous users glaring at him with disapproval. And one last thing. My tone was cold as I spoke. Murio wouldn't even accept the quirk, it was passed to me. He wouldn't want to take someone else's quirk, even under your orders. He's someone who would do what was right rather than what was asked. Did you even consider his feelings about this? Have you even told him about all this? I asked. The silence was all I needed. Letting go of his hand, I walked out. Sorry All Might, I need to go and hit something. I slammed the door shut hard. The 2 men stood there in silence until All Might sighed. I thought he would see reason, but I thought wrong. His anger will be, you provoked him. You told him he was unworthy when I deemed him so long ago. All Might cut Night Eye off. He is quirkless. Night Eye adjusted his tie. As am I. All Might glared at his former sidekick. Night Eye looked at All Might and walked out of the room, no more words exchanged between them. All Might groaned and rubbed his forehead, he wished he could drink. After asking Nezu and Aizawa for permission to use one of the gyms and access to some of the robots, I was demolishing them, smashing their heads, breaking them easily. How dare Night Eye try and throw his weight around? Just because he was All Might's former sidekick didn't mean he had any right to decide on who gets One for All. Judging me when he didn't know me, I hated people who were like that. He was also blinded by All Might, as were many others. But I needed to pull the curtain and show them that All Might is human and one beacon can't light the world. After destroying the last one, a voice called out. Robots aren't good punching bags. I turned to see Bakugo in his gym uniform with his arms crossed. What are you doing here? I asked as I rolled my arm. You didn't come back to the dorm, plus you asked for usage of the gym and the robots in the Illuminati group chat. I saw it and figured something happened. I frowned. And why do you care? I asked as I turned away. Because we're friends, you idiot, Bakugo said in a sincere tone. Turning to him with a look of surprise. Wow, you said it so sincerely. I was honestly shocked. I knew he had a rivalry, A friendship was something I did hope for but didn't expect. I can be sincere when I want to be. Bakugo then got into a fighting stance. Are you gonna fight or not? I stared at him before going into one of my own. No quirks, just hand to hand. Bakugo told me. Alright. With that, I lunged at him and threw a haymaker. Bakugo dodged and retaliated with a kick which I blocked. As I threw another punch, Night Eye came into my mind. I growled as anger started to cloud my mind and guide my attacks.
Bakugo took notice and went more on the offensive as my attacks became sloppier.
His words echoing in my head as I fought. I saw red as my quirk came to life and I launched a kick at Bakugo who let loose his flash grenade move. I was blinded as I covered my eyes. Dude, I waved my one arm around. Calm yet? Bakugo asked. The ringing faded and I opened my eyes to see him standing there with his arms crossed.
Are you gonna tell me what happened? He asked, narrowing his eyes.
Fine. I sighed and started to explain the meeting with All Might and Sir Night Eye. The moment I finished, Bakugo was scowling. Fucker has no rights to choose who should wield one for all, it's All Might's choice.
Yeah, I don't think he got the memo. I commented as I sat on the floor.
Listen, you're the best one to wield that quirk, it became yours the moment you took it, Bakugo huffed. Since when did you become so comforting? I asked sarcastically. The moment you told me everything, was Bakugo's response. If I want to be the #1 hero, I need to learn to work well with others and become a people person. He glared. I'm not becoming a wimp. Didn't say you weren't. I smiled at him. Thanks, don't mention it, Izuku. It's weird to hear you call me that. I muttered, yeah I know but I'm trying to show you more respect. He shrugged. Then I'll call you Katsuki. I got up and patted his shoulder. Fucking weird to hear you say that. Whatever, don't tell anyone or your ass is grass. Katsuki growled as we walked out of the gym. Tell anyone what? I grinned as we exited the gym.